Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I, Blackbeard, start by asking for dark fruit. Chapter 81. A few minutes ago, Shichibukai Battlefield. At this time, Foil Beasta, the captain of Whitebeard's 5th Division, who was fighting Hawkeye, already had a lot of scars on his body. Even if Hawkeye doesn't fight with all his strength, Hawkeye Beasta can't stand facing the lower limit of Marine Admiral level combat power. At this moment, a figure intervened in the battle between the two of them. Chang Chang. A flash of black light flashed, and Hawkeye's black sword was bounced away, followed by Beasta's double swords. Beasta looked up and saw a tall guy standing in front of him, with his back to him. "Who are you?" Beasta was shocked and confused. As a sword king, he could feel the strange sword intent in the man. The other party is also a swordsman. The man had 2 long knives on his waist, and what he was holding in his hand was a thick blade with a purple-black color and a large reverse T-shaped jagged blade. "Call." The man blew out a smoke ring and said calmly. "One of our own. Now he is considered a swordsman in the Blackbeard pirates. Beasta, leave Hawkeye to me and you go deal with the other Shichibukai. It's too early for him." Quote. Beasta twitched the corner of his mouth. Didn't he know that the gap between him and Hawkeye was not too big? This is still the case when Hawkeye is too lazy to participate in such a meaningless battle. Otherwise, he might have been seriously injured long ago. Now that he heard that the other party was Teach's partner, he looked relaxed and said, "Since you are Teach's partner on the ship, we are one of our own. I won't be polite to you anymore. With Hawkeye's strength, as the Sword King, you can feel the difference even if you don't take action. And you still choose to take action. It seems that you are not a simple guy. I'll leave Hawkeye to you while I deal with the other Shichibukai." Quote. Just when Beasta was about to leave, the golden pupils of the eagle eye in the distance shrank, and then he looked at the swordsman holding the black sword, and the corners of his mouth raised. "Shiryu of the Rain, didn't you expect that you would be released from Impel Down? I thought you would be imprisoned for the rest of your life." Ha 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 ha. The person who came was surprisingly Shiryu of the Rain, who had joined the black group. At this time, he was wearing a guard's coat and holding the famous sword Shui Shui given to him by Blackbeard. This sword is much stronger than his thunderstorm little boy. While laughing, Shiryu waved the black sword Chushui in his hand and said proudly, "I didn't expect it, Mahawk, I also have my own black knife." Eagle eyes narrowed slightly. "It's a good knife, but it's a pity it's not your own black knife." "Indeed, but for me, it's enough." Shiryu grinned. "How's it going? Are you going to have a long-lost battle?" "Ah, come on." Hawkeye looked solemn. He also wanted to see how powerful this former opponent could be now. Beasta in the distance was a little stunned. Did these two people know each other? It seems that they have fought before. Clang clang clang. Just as he was thinking about this, Hawkeye and Shiryu were already fighting together. The terrifying sword intent forced people to dare not step within a few hundred meters of them. Chi chi chi. For a moment, the cyan sword energy and the blood sword energy flew around, flattening one of the 2,000-meter icebergs that were originally frozen by Aokiji. Everyone who saw this scene from a distance couldn't help but swallowed subconsciously. Fortunately, they ran fast, otherwise the iceberg would have been their fate. At this time, everyone also realized that such a strong swordsman was actually a member of the Blackbeard pirates. How strong is the Blackbeard pirates? After Beasta took one look, he rushed towards the pirate empress in the distance. Big perfume femur. Boom. But before Beasta could even rush forward, he was kicked dozens of meters away by the empress. At the same time, the empress' arrogant and cold voice came. "You are all friends of Mr. Teach, and the Yuan family will not lie to you. But if you dare to offend the Igia again, don't blame the Igia for being rude." Snort. After saying this, a wave of conquerors' haki swept out, instantly shocking those with evil intentions and turning their faces pale. Beasta took a slight breath of cold air. After feeling his hands that were fighting for blocking the kick with his sword, he immediately chose to follow his heart. "Master Teach. Teach, what on earth did you do to the human empress? Did you really practice well during the year you were away?" Beasta gritted her teeth. "What?" Teach held 2 Marine admirals in his arms. "That's okay. Sue sue sue." At the same time, the shocking tornado rising in the distance also attracted the attention of many people. When everyone looked over, The flying squirrel vice admiral had hundreds of wounds cut all over his body and was lying in the center of the tornado covered in blood. Standing next to him was none other than the Blackbeard pirate's Baji Crow. At this time, Crow was standing next to Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel, with one hand supporting his waist with the back of his hand, and the other hand pushing his glasses with his wrist and speaking indifferently. Marine Vice Admiral, nothing more. Although Crow also had a lot of sword wounds at this time, shouldn't he still be allowed to win the cup after winning? Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel lying on the ground, twitched the corner of his mouth, coughed out a mouthful of blood foam and said, You guy only offered a reward of 35 million. The CP of world government is really a waste. The flying squirrel was so angry that his liver ached. I originally thought that Crow was just a little Karami with a bounty of 35 million, but I didn't expect that the opponent had no martial ethics at all. He used his ultimate move to catch him off guard, causing him to be directly injured and put him at a disadvantage. Then, Crow let the flying squirrel's disadvantages continue to expand, eventually leading to defeat. Compared to Crow, who killed Vice Admiral, the strongest flying squirrel, Cow was even more ruthless. Not only did he kill the giant Vice Admiral, but after attracting the ghost spider, he used a heavy artillery to kill him in the middle. Therefore, Van Oka's ability has completely attracted Marine's attention. Those veteran vice admirals quickly recognized Oka's ability, and the round fruit was completely exposed. This made many Marine executives feel frightened by the combat power of Blackbeard's men. The former owner of the Momo fruit was the Burndi world named World Destroyer. Now the guy who got the Momo fruit is not a physical master like Burndi world, but the opponent is a sniper. Simply more suitable than Bond world. Just look at the fate of Vice Admiral, the Ghost Spider. He was completely killed before he even got close to the opponent. Oka didn't save any hands and directly blew up the Ghost Spider until its head was rotten. Crow was naturally not easy to deal with, but just when he was about to kill the flying squirrel, an khaki figure in the distance flashed and came to Crow in an instant. Crow only felt that what he saw was a pig's head, and then he was blown away. After seeing the visitor, Crow immediately retreated without stopping. The person who came was surprisingly one of Marine's top combatants, the Marine Admiral candidate, Vice Admiral. The person who was fighting with the opponent before was the captain of the first team, Marco. Call out, wow! The next second, Marco fell from the sky. He turned his head and said to Crow behind him, Sorry, I was treating this guy while healing my brothers, and I accidentally let him run away. Piece of cake. Crow also knew how heavy Marco's burden was at this time, so he didn't say much. After helping Whitebeard to the edge of the battlefield, Marco immediately began to treat Whitebeard's injuries. Marco was horrified to see his father use Shockfruit's ability crazily without hesitation, regardless of his physical condition. You must know that Whitebeard faced 4 Marine Admirals before, and every attack was almost the full force of Shockfruit. With Whitebeard's broken body, almost every time he uses the full power of Shockfruit, he will receive a certain amount of counter-shock damage. Coupled with being pierced through the abdomen by Kizaru's laser sneak attack, this completely caused a chain reaction, causing Whitebeard to cough up blood after leaving the battlefield. That is to say, Marco's Phoenix ability has a strong healing effect and temporarily suppressed Whitebeard's injuries. Otherwise, Whitebeard would not be able to survive for long. But after his injuries were suppressed, Whitebeard was ready to join the battlefield again. At this time, the situation on the field was changing rapidly, and the high-end combat power was resisted by Blackbeard and the helpers he called. As the leader of this war, what does it mean if he doesn't show up? Just when Whitebeard was about to join the battlefield again, he heard the cry of Jian coming from the distance. At this moment, not only Whitebeard, but also Sengoku and Bullet, Garp and Redfield who were fighting, as well as Momoshiki, T-Dolphin and others in the distance turned their heads to look here at the same time. Upon seeing this, everyone's expressions changed. I saw a frozen place in the distance, Akainu screamed and wailed, blood spurted from his left arm, and his broken left hand was thrown into the air with the light of the sword. Fire punch. The most cruel thing is that Blackbeard, who cut off Akainu's left hand, had no intention of leaving it to him. After being forced back by Aokiji, he used a backhand fire punch to directly blow up and burn Akainu's severed left hand. Kakaka. Aokiji, who had already helped Akainu aside from a distance, immediately raised his hand to freeze Akainu's wound. But even so, Akainu's face was still pale. He gritted his teeth and stared at Blackbeard in the distance, but he did not say harsh words immediately, but said in a deep voice, "Kuzan, Porosalino, don't let that guy touch you. His ability is to invalidate our devil fruit ability after touching the opponent." Porosalino's previous information has been basically confirmed. This kind of guy must not be let go. Otherwise it will be a big trouble in the future. Kuzan, Momoshiki, come with me, we must keep this guy here completely. Although the broken arm was extremely painful for Akainu, the pain actually calmed him down. This is the realization of Marine Admiral. Blackbeard opened his arms and laughed. "Thief, ha ha ha, how are you going to keep me? As long as I want to leave, who of you can stop me? Sakazuki, look at your current miserable state. Isn't it miserable enough for you to be beaten by me? Leave me, don't be too arrogant, you seem to be rational, but are you not clear about your self-understanding? Whatever, just continue to let the world see your shameless faces." Blackbeard's words were like a knife piercing Akainu's heart, making him angry. Sengoku in the distance heard this, his expression changed and he said, "Impossible, I have cut off the live broadcast signal a long time ago." "You just cut off your live broadcast signal, but you didn't cut off mine." "Thief, ha 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 ha." Blackbeard burst into laughter upon hearing this. Sengoku's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Thinking that Marine had just attacked several Marine Admiral people and not one of them had taken it down, and then looked at the dilapidated Marine fort, Sengoku's face became increasingly ugly. Especially Akainu, who is a Marine Admiral, even had Akainu's arm cut off when he and Aokiji were fighting 2 against 1. Although Akainu's combat power has declined due to being seriously injured by Whitebeard before, he is still a Marine Admiral. Ordinary people watching the live broadcast will not understand this. Marine Admiral had his arm cut off during a 2-on-1 fight. This will be a great damage to Marine's reputation. Just look at the battlefield in Marineford at this time. All the Marines heard Akainu's screams and saw Akainu's arm being chopped off by Blackbeard. They all looked ugly and retreated. Golden Gong Chop. At this moment, Momoshiki, who had been named by Akainu before, was holding the famous sword Kinpira, and slashed from Blackbeard's side with a golden sword light. Ding! However, the next second, a scene that shocked everyone watching the live broadcast appeared. Blackbeard just stretched out his 2 fingers and easily clamped the knife of Admiral Candidate Momoshiki between his fingertips. Then, Blackbeard turned his head to look at Momoshiki and chuckled. "It's not a good habit to interrupt someone while they're talking, lady." "What? How is that possible?" Momoshiki looked horrified when he saw this. Although the move just now was not her strongest move, it couldn't be picked up so easily, right? It was as if the other party was playing with her. The expressions of Akainu and Aokiji in the distance also changed. In their opinion, this was obviously impossible. Even they were determined not to be able to catch Momoshiki's sword with their hands. But how do they know Blackbeard's application of abilities at this time? First of all, Blackbeard's physical body has been greatly strengthened due to the ability of the Phantom Beast species. In his normal state, he is already equivalent to the state of someone else who has armed his whole body with armed colors. At this time, Blackbeard's 2 fingers holding Momoshiki's long sword also used armament hockey under the cover of Dark Fruit's ability. Terrible defense, coupled with Dark Fruit's devouring ability. Momoshiki's sword moves have no effect on Blackbeard. Unless Momoshiki can reach the state of using Conqueror's Entanglement. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to break through Blackbeard's current defense. Frozen Time Capsule. Aokiji in the distance naturally couldn't let Momoshiki be seriously injured by Blackbeard, so he immediately swung his right hand in the direction of Blackbeard, releasing a cold air shock wave. Wherever the shock wave passed, an ice path several meters wide instantly condensed on the ground. Qian Lihao. Great Fireball. Seeing this, Blackbeard breathed lightly and spit out a line of fire forward. After leaving the mouth, the line of fire immediately turned into a huge fireball and collided with the cold air shock wave shot by Aokiji. Boom! There was a huge explosion, and sparks flew everywhere. Canine-toothed Red Lotus. Akainu's condition has recovered a bit at this time. Even if his arm is broken, it still does not affect his elemental transformation. His right hand turns into a huge magma dog head and shoots out towards the aftermath of the previous explosion. Bite out of the smoke and bite Blackbeard. Seeing this, Blackbeard raised his hand and touched the shocked Momosegi's pretty face, and then kicked her on the buttocks to knock her away when the latter looked at her in astonishment. This is considered interest. Ha 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 ha. After a burst of triumphant laughter, Blackbeard snorted and punched the head of the several-meter-long magma dog without giving up. Dark Freeze Fist. Boom. This punch, which combines the abilities of Dark Fruit and Phantom Beast, directly swallows the burning damage that hits itself, and then uses the power of freezing to instantly freeze the magma dog head into an ice sculpture and spread towards Blackbeard's arm. Akainu's expression changed and he immediately cut off the magma dog's head. Snapped. At the same time, Akainu raised his foot and stamped the ground suddenly, causing the ground to turn into a pool of magma. But where would Blackbeard give him the chance to sink into the lava? With the ice soul wings flapping behind his back, his figure flew over 100 meters away and in the blink of an eye he came to Akainu who was half sunken. He kicked him out of the magma pool with his earthen feet. Come. Tempest kick sudden rain and wind J. Boom boom boom. Immediately afterwards, Blackbeard kicked out several tempest kicks in the air and hit Akainu who flew upside down, beating him into a mess. Aokiji immediately arrived from behind to stop him from continuing to pursue Akainu. Ice Age, have you finally gone all out? Blackbeard sneered, clenched his right fist violently, and golden white flames shot up into the sky, then punched out and shouted. The great fire is extinguished. The great fire is extinguished. After Blackbeard finished speaking, he punched out. The golden flame surged out, turning into a fire wave hundreds of meters high and rushing toward Aokiji in the distance. Such power. Aokiji looked shocked. Even Mara fruit can't reach this level. It's not inferior to Sakazuki's awakened ability, this. Click click click. Although he was shocked, Aokiji directly used his strongest move, and the whole body was filled with chills like a tidal wave. Ice Age. The ground instantly froze, with a chill that chilled the surrounding air and rushed towards the golden wave of fire ahead. Boom. One golden white and one blue ice, two terrifying energies collided and directly formed a stalemate. One side is extremely hot, and the other side is freezing cold. The marine soldiers and pirates who were fighting hundreds of meters away could not stay here at all at this moment. Feeling the increasingly surging energy, everyone fled 1,000 meters away as if they were flying. However, the collision of these two energies did not stop there. It can be said that the energy is still overflowing, and the pirates and marines who were forced to fight had to stop fighting again and escape farther away. The battle between the two of them has already affected the entire Summit War. Everyone watching the live broadcast from all over the world was dumbfounded. They did not expect that this would be the case when two top-level ability users truly let go and fight. What if the Akainu from before joins in again? Just when everyone was thinking about this, the person who took the camera seemed to see through everyone's thoughts, and the live camera immediately found Akainu. The location of Akainu, which was previously blasted away by Blackbeard, has now turned into a 100-meter magma lake. And Akainu has sunk into the magma. Gouda, Gouda, Gouda. Looking at the lake that was constantly bubbling with hot lava, everyone watching the live broadcast felt their scalps go numb. This is simply not human anymore. Wow, just when everyone thought Akainu would rest for a long time, he actually rushed out of the lava lake. It turned into an orange-red stream of light and rushed towards Blackbeard who was wrestling with Aokiji. Blackbeard, who was flying in the air, took action without hesitation and punched Blackbeard in the back. When people watching the live broadcast saw this scene, many people immediately yelled at Akainu for being despicable. However, this is Zanwei. Do whatever you can. Go back to 1 minute ago. After Whitebeard saw Blackbeard beat Akainu violently despite Aokiji's attack in a 1 versus 2 battle, he suddenly smiled. Gu la 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 la, teach, are you this strong? I can't let you compete with me. Bang. After saying this, Whitebeard flexed his legs and stepped directly into a pit of several meters in the ground. He rose into the sky and headed towards the place where Akainu, Aokiji and Master Blackbeard were fighting in the distance. Past. I can't let you disturb them, light speed kick. However, just when Whitebeard was halfway through the charge, a golden light appeared on top of Whitebeard's head and kicked him on the back. Glitter Imp. Whitebeard was in pain, and before his body fell, the naginata in his hand wrapped around Conqueror's haki, and struck Kizaru's body with the knife, knocking Kizaru away. Bang! Call out! Boom! Kizaru grunted as he was beaten by this move, and unexpectedly shot Whitebeard one step ahead and landed on the ground in the distance, causing a huge explosion. Boom! Only then did Whitebeard fall to the ground below. Kizaru, your opponent is this god. Enel saw that Kizaru was able to sneak attack others while fighting him. This made him feel very embarrassed, so he directly used his ultimate move. 5 billion Ford Thors, thousands of thunder infinite electromagnetic gun. Enel, who transformed into a blue-white thunder giant more than 10 meters high, suddenly fired a dozen huge electromagnetic cannons with a diameter of several meters towards Kizaru with his hands. Kizaru, who had just recovered from the pain of being slapped away by Whitebeard, saw Enel's brutal attack. Hey, you actually still have this kind of method. It's really scary. Kizaru's expression was solemn, his sense of knowledge suddenly turned on, his body was shining with golden light, he folded his hands together and shouted. 8-foot beautiful Magatama, sizzling. The next moment, countless golden laser beams as thick as Enel's electromagnetic gun blasted towards Enel. The terrifying abilities of the two collided in the air, and ripples of energy suddenly exploded again. The ground was plowed over and over in an instant, and most of Marineford Square was sunken. No matter what, after this battle, Marineford was completely useless. Just as Kizaru and Enel were fighting each other, with a thought in his mind, a Kizaru who looked exactly like him came out from behind and turned into light particles and disappeared. When this clone appeared again, it was far away from Whitebeard and kept firing lasers in the direction of Whitebeard. Boom! At the same time, the Sengoku Golden Buddha, who was fighting with Bullet, slapped Bullet's combined giant on the ground with one palm. Then the Golden Giant Buddha jumped into the sky above Whitebeard. His palm was pointed at Whitebeard below, which was the clone of Kizaru. At the same time, launch a long-range attack. BBEH. Buddha's impact. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. Boo-hoo-hoo. Drink. Whitebeard didn't hesitate when he saw this, and clenched his fist again and hit the space in front of him. Bang. Click 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 click. Space is shattered. When the shock waves and lasers hit the shattered space, they shattered into countless pieces and dissipated together with the space. However, the shattered space did not stop there and spread directly to Sengoku in the sky and Kizaru's clone in the distance. It's too bad. Kizaru's clone pouted and exploded into countless pieces. The same was true for Sengoku in the sky, except that he was not blown into pieces, but was blown up in the air and spit out a large mouthful of blood. Ah, Gudong. The same was true for Whitebeard below, except that he forcefully swallowed a mouthful of blood, but blood still overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Wow. At this time, Whitebeard was holding his body up with Kong Yunchi and gasping for air. The hideous black hole in his stomach showed that he was still suffering from inhuman pain. After seeing Blackbeard fighting hard with two admirals, Aokiji and Akainu, he felt very uncomfortable. I am getting old after all. Teach. There is no point in continuing this war like this. Just let me end it. Just as Whitebeard was thinking about this, his vision caught sight of Akainu's sneak attack on Blackbeard, which made him furious. He turned his head and looked in the distance and roared. Magma Kid, you still want to attack? Let Lousy die. Air shock. Drink. Whitebeard directly threw away the Kong Yunchi in his hand, the white light fluttered in his eyes, and he grabbed the space with both hands, and pulled it violently as if pulling 10 curtains. Wow! Everyone in the Marineford space immediately felt that the floor tiles were the perfect choice. Kakakaka. Boom. Marineford's open sea shattered into countless pieces. After the crack spread to Marineford, Marineford was torn apart, and the Naval Headquarters office building collapsed. When Akainu was about to attack Blackbeard with a Dark Hound punch, he was shocked to find that his attack and Blackbeard were not in the same space at all, and the two of them were just missing each other. At this time, Blackbeard also sensed something was wrong. With a quick glance, he noticed the spatial dislocation between Akainu and him. Feeling the changes in the surrounding space and the fact that Mary was directly torn apart, he knew that Whitebeard had used his big move again. After the space vibration subsides, Blackbeard looked at Akainu who was flying towards him in the distance, pointed the palm of his left hand in his direction and shouted. Shinra Tenjang. Akainu, who had just flown within a few dozen meters of Blackbeard, suddenly felt a terrible repulsive force hit his body, causing him to fly backwards hundreds of meters faster than before and hit the broken city wall. How can you still be so distracted while fighting with me? 2 thorn spears. When Aokiji saw this, he looked suspicious and said nothing. With one move, the 2 spears that were more than 10 meters long and wrapped around armament Haki directly penetrated the energy barrier of ice and fire between the 2 of them and pierced towards Blackbeard. Seeing this, Blackbeard raised his eyebrows and raised the corners of his mouth as he said, "Aokiji, you really don't have a long memory. Swallow the world." As he spoke, Blackbeard waved his left hand, and the thick darkness rose into the sky, turning into a black screen and blocking him in front of him. He swallowed the 2 frozen spears from Stinger City into his ministers. What? Even if it's entangled, Haki can be swallowed. Aokiji was really shocked at this time, but he quickly changed his color and shouted, "Sakazuki, thief, ha 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 ha." Blackbeard laughed when he heard this and said, "You understand me, but it's too late." Liberation. Endless black mist rose up 100 meters away from Akainu, and then 2 frozen spears entangled with the terrifying armament Haki shot at Akainu with terrifying piercing extreme cold. What? Akainu, who had just been stunned by Shinra Tenjang, felt 2 terrible attacks as soon as he stood up. But now he only has 1 arm and cannot block these 2 attacks at all. Canine-toothed Red Lotus. However, the critical situation did not allow Akainu to have too many choices. He directly punched the dog's head into a huge magma and hit it on an ice spear. The ice spear directly penetrated the dog's head and at the same time, most of it was melted and plunged into the ground. The surrounding area of 100 meters turned into a piece of ice. Poof! Another ice spear was nailed directly to Akainu's chest, impaling him on the ice spear and flying him several hundred meters backward before being nailed to the wall of the inner square. Cough! Akainu spat out a mouthful of frosty blood, and his whole body felt a little sluggish. First he was chopped by Whitebeard, then he was chased and beaten, and then his arm was broken off by Blackbeard with a blaster. Now, Blackbeard used Aokiji's ability to nail him to the wall of Marineford's inner square. It can be said that Akainu is definitely the most miserable and highest combat power today. Just when everyone looked at Akainu who was nailed to the inner wall in disbelief, Blackbeard, who was in a stalemate with Aokiji, gave up the confrontation directly. "Where are you looking, Kuzan?" His body stepped out into a wave of air in the air, and the golden flames jetted from the soles of his feet directly penetrated the energy barrier of ice and fire, and suddenly appeared in the green sky. In front of the pheasant, the golden white flaming fist hit Aokiji hard in the abdomen. Fire punch. Boom. Aokiji's whole body arched up and was blown away by golden flames hundreds of meters away before completely exploding. Thief, ha 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 ha. Marine Admiral, nothing more. There is no opponent before me. Then, Blackbeard's lower body turned into golden flames and rose into the sky, standing high in the sky again. Darkness, frost, and flames surrounded him, showing his invincibility. It's like the devil descending from the sky, it's really the magic card on Earth. From now on, there is no chance of marine morale rising. People watching the live broadcast from all over the world were completely dumbfounded. Many people even cried out in disbelief. Marine Admiral, that's Marine Admiral, he was beaten like this by that Blackbeard. That guy is a monster. His abilities are so pervert. How can there be a person with 3 fruit abilities? The world is going to change. I can't beat him at all. If we continue to beat him, Marine will really be doomed. Strong, too strong, ha 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 ha, I want to go to sea, I want to follow Blackbeard all over the world. Shock, Marine, tremble, world government. Master Teach is invincible, ha ha ha, brothers, go to sea with Lousy and prepare to go to the new world. At this moment, after seeing this scene around the world, some people are afraid, some are desperate, and some are excited. The portrayal of this world is vividly revealed at this moment. Now, Iregia, a girl with pink and white hair, looked at the scene on the live phone. Her pink lips were slightly raised, and her face was full of astonishment and disbelief. In the face of this kind of monster, will my ability really be effective? No way. Sure enough, just as this man said, in this twisted world, only the strong have the right to speak. The new era will not be possible without absolute power to maintain it. Even someone as powerful as Marine must bow before this man. In that case, then I will master it until I turn it into my puppet. At that time, with the ability of the ancient demon god Totemjika, we will create a new era. At the same time, Charlotte Linlin, who was watching the live broadcast, couldn't help but be shocked when she saw this scene. Isn't this guy a little too diabolical? Is this what is truly terrifying about people with 3 fruit abilities? Kaido, what do you think? The horse scolds the horse. Wanokuni, Ghost Island. After hearing Charlotte Linlin's voice on the phone, Kaido took a sip of wine and laughed. Hey, this guy has very strong abilities, including swallowing, fire, and ice. But no matter how he hides it, he has a very weak shortcoming. His haki is far less powerful than we thought. His ability is enough to keep him in a stalemate between 2 admirals, but he can't really fight for a long time. Only haki is above all else. What's more, that guy named Teach hasn't shown his strength yet. He's not even close yet. Waluoluoluo. After the phone bug was silent for a while, the ant's voice came. Kaido, have you noticed that you have become more and more swollen in recent years? Is he still far behind? If he throws a few meteorites at your ghost island, how are you going to get there? Do you think you can crush meteorites into powder like Garp? If you can smash the meteorite, the ghost island will be gone. Don't be too arrogant, Kaido. This kind of monster, even without Conqueror's entanglement, is definitely a formidable opponent. Jin, don't let your boss drink every day. My brain is going crazy. I don't want to talk to fools. Chaka. The caller was immediately hung up. Kaido, who was laughing boldly, suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Hearing this, the 3 disasters and 6 flying packs all bowed their heads and remained silent, suppressing their laughter. This old woman is getting more and more grumpy and even hung up on lousy. Kaido curled his lips, but did not refute Big Mom's words. He still stared at Marineford's situation. Although the world of pirates may have been destroyed, his mouth is still there, but no matter what, the name Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach has already given Kaido an impression of that man. Shadow. But even in his opinion, that man couldn't have such a weird multi-fruit ability. Blackbeard, where will you go? The Battle of Impel Down is almost over. Marineford, above the sky. 2 figures were fighting fiercely high in the sky, and the constant rolling air waves dispersed all the clouds gathering around them. The 2 figures fighting against each other were clearly the marine hero Garp, and the aloof Red Redfield who had just followed Blackbeard out of Impel Down. Fist bone clash. The sword swings in all directions. Boom boom boom. Another fierce collision between the 2 moves. The sky was densely covered with black lightning, and haki was like a wave of waves that could not help but rush wildly. The air waves are like ocean waves, sweeping away in all directions one after another. The Marines and pirates who were fighting below looked up in shock from time to time at the 2 people fighting back and forth in the sky. That kind of terrible haki overflow, even if they are hundreds of meters apart, they still feel their scalps numb. But soon, they were attracted by the movement in the distance. There was no way. Sakazuki, one of the 3 marine admirals, was directly nailed to the wall of the inner square by Blackbeard, and he kept coughing up blood. It was really shocking. Before they could scream in surprise, Marine Admiral Aokiji, who was wrestling with Blackbeard, was punched away by Blackbeard again, and then engulfed in golden explosion flames. Marine Admiral fought 2 against 1 and was suppressed. In or out, there is no opponent before me. It's so haki. Is this the kind of monster that Marine originally faced? Having seen Whitebeard being beaten until he vomited blood, they all thought that this war was about to be won. What the hell, a Whitebeard fell, and an even stronger Blackbeard came out. Who can bear this? So, is it necessary to continue fighting now? It would be unthinkable if the opponent took advantage of the 2 admirals being suppressed to free up their hands to deal with them. The captains and captains of Whitebeard in the distance were looking at Blackbeard in the sky surrounded by darkness, ice, and flames, as if we're seeing gods. Too strong. Such a terrifying sense of oppression can only be matched by the peak Whitebeard, right? Overwhelmed 2 marine admirals. One of them even had an arm cut off by him. Such a situation has already happened. How can Marine still maintain morale? As a result, Marine was losing ground. At this moment, there were sudden bursts of violent explosions on the sea behind them. Everyone looked back subconsciously and saw that many pirate ships had been blown up by gunfire. Seeing this scene, all the pirates were immediately panicked. What's going on? Why are there people behind you? With that kind of explosion, could it be a marine fleet? That's not a cannonball, it's a laser. Kizaru. No, he's still fighting that Enel. 1. What's going on? Sizzling. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, a group of pirates saw 30 pacifists appearing behind them. But many pirates don't know this kind of thing. Many people only kept their memories on the tyrant bear, so their expressions changed drastically after seeing such a large number of pacifists. What the hell? Why are there so many Shichibukai? Marine wants to cut off our escape route. No, we have to get rid of these things. Just when the pirates were panicking, Blackbeard took out the speakerphone bug on his body and shouted. Leave the retreat to my companions, you only need to focus on the battle in front of you. If brothers believe me, don't have anything to worry about. Moria, Juan, what are you waiting for? Kill them for me. The pirates who were still in panic suddenly calmed down after hearing Blackbeard's voice in the sky. As for distrust, that doesn't exist. For them now, Blackbeard is their strongest combat force here. They all see it. If Blackbeard hadn't taken care of the 2 Marine admirals, their outcome would have been even worse. Moreover, the members of the Beard Pirates were still rescuing the wounded, which made all the pirates even more grateful. They were all pirates who only knew how to rush and kill, and they didn't even consider the situation of the wounded when they came. Even if there were ship doctors, it would be impossible to rescue such a large number of wounded. Without pre-war planning and preparation, there would be no way to treat so many wounded. Therefore, these pirates are extremely grateful to Blackbeard and the Black Group. After all, many of their dying brothers saved their lives thanks to the treatment of the Blackbeard pirates. For loyal pirates, this is definitely a big deal. What's more, Blackbeard is still one of his own. Therefore, after hearing Blackbeard's words, these pirates not only did not lower their morale, but instead became more emotional. Sengoku, who was fighting passionately with Bullet, saw this scene with a dark look in his eyes. He knew that Marine was doomed. And at this moment, a shocking scene appeared. I saw a giant leaping from the flying ship of the Blackbeard pirates in the distance in the sky, and then expanded into a 180-meter giant in just a breath. Boom! As the giant fell into the sea, he punched the Wutai pacifist who appeared on the right side of the harbor and shouted at the same time. Robot, punch me! Boom! With one punch, the port collapsed and the Wutai pacifists instantly became a pile of scrap metal. Door, crunch. On the other side of the bay, a space door opened. Then a 67-meter tall giant with 2 horns and red skin climbed out of the gate, and then several kendos holding long knives, axes, and long swords jumped out of the gate. Finally, there was Moria, whose body had obviously lost a lot of weight. He stood behind the group of zombies, opened his arms and laughed excitedly. My dear zombies, destroy all these pacifists. Yes, man. Dozens of zombies roared in unison, especially the 7-meter zombie demon Oz, whose voice was like a roar. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a fierce battle broke out in the harbor on the left. The pacifists had strong defense and were not afraid of swords, but the zombies were not afraid either, let alone life and death. In less than a few minutes, the dozens of pacifists on the left were all killed by Moria's zombie army. The group of pacifists on the right were even worse. They were beaten into meat patties by the 180-meter tall San Juan wolf. Before Zan Momomaru, who appeared on the battlefield with this group of expensive people, had time to show off, he saw that these pacifists, who were worth the price of 30 warships, were all smashed to pieces. Unable to think, he took the axe and was about to chop one, but was suddenly slapped and flew hundreds of meters away, hitting the ruins of Marineford's outer wall and passed out. The pacifist army that made its debut was completely destroyed. Oh! The pirates who saw this scene roared excitedly. Ha 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 ha, so reliable teaches partner. Hey, is that guy too big? In his eyes, giants are just like little Karami. What's going on? How can there be such a huge person? It's incredible. Is it someone with abilities? But even if he is a person with abilities, won't he lose his strength in the water? Look at the piece he has hammered into gold. The morale of the pirates is rising again, while the morale of the Marines is falling again and again. After seeing this scene, Blackbeard's lips curled up, and he knew it was time to retreat. Immediately, Blackbeard's wings fluttered behind him, and his figure quickly flew through the sky, flying towards the execution platform. Akainu, who had been nailed to the wall under the execution platform, had just recovered some form and was standing with Aokiji, staring at Blackbeard warily. The two people who were about to take action heard Blackbeard say, "Save it, keep fighting, what's the point?" The two of them were stunned for a moment after hearing these words, and thought to themselves that you were the one who beat me the hardest before. Throwing meteorites again, and gaining the Mara fruit ability to set fire everywhere. However, the fighting spirit of the two of them was indeed low. As for Akainu, he was still staring at Blackbeard with hatred and murderous intent. If he hadn't broken one of his hands, which greatly reduced his combat power, and if he hadn't been too injured now, he would definitely fight Blackbeard to the death. However, Blackbeard did not catch Akainu at all, but fell directly from the air to the execution platform. Boom! Sengoku was fighting passionately with Bullet in the distance. After punching Bullet away, he looked at Blackbeard on the execution platform and shouted, "Blackbeard, what are you doing here? What else do you want to do?" Blackbeard did not speak immediately. His eyes looked far away, scanning the entire battlefield from far to near. After the corners of his mouth slightly raised, Xiaoran said, "I'm here to end this war." Blackbeard's voice, along with the loudspeaker bug on his body, spread throughout Marineford, and also spread to every corner of the world watching the live broadcast. Everyone's first thought when they heard this sentence was that of shock. Blackbeard ignored the confused Marine and pirates, and said in a deep voice, "This war has no meaning at this point. Enough people have died. If the fight continues, both of us will lose, and then both sides will disappear from this world. So, I hope you all can give me some face. If any of you want to fight again, then don't blame me for being rude." Su. After Blackbeard finished speaking, endless darkness rose into the sky from behind him, and darkness instantly filled the sky for thousands of meters. Immediately afterwards, under the shocked eyes of the whole world, a giant object as big as an island slowly emerged in the sky from the black mist that spread throughout the sky. Wow! However, when they saw this giant piece, there was a shocking uproar throughout Marineford, followed by gasps of air. "Nani? That's hiss. Oh my god, how did that guy teach do it?" Right. The door of justice. It turns out that the gate of justice was swallowed up by Blackbeard. What kind of ability is this? It's so terrifying. That's the door of justice. At this moment, all the Marine soldiers in Marineford Square were holding their heads, their faces full of shock and horror. They no longer had any fighting spirit in their bodies. Seeing this scene, even Whitebeard fell silent. "Teach, you can come up with something new with me." In fact, he also know that, as Teach said, there is no point in continuing this war. Whether it was Marines or pirates, too many people died. If they really continue to fight to the death, they will definitely be destroyed in the end. The dead are dead, and the living are still alive. At this moment, even Akainu, who hates pirates the most, looks at the gate of justice floating in the sky like a small island hundreds of meters above, and he can't think of fighting again. It is true that even if this door of justice falls, it will not be able to crush him, and it will not even have any impact on Marine 3 Admiral. But what about the other Marines? Before, Blackbeard was able to let Garp smash the meteorite, but now Garp is stopped by Redfield, and Sengoku is entangled by Bullet. They, Marine 3 and Admiral, can break it, but the time is not necessarily enough, and they can only break it. So, the result is very clear. If they're not decent, Blackbeard will help the Marine be decent. The entire Marineford fell into an eerie silence at this moment. After a while, Sengoku had changed from a huge golden Buddha to a normal state. Then he let out a long sigh, looked up at the gate of justice in the sky and said, "Then I will give you this face. The war is over." Whoosh! As Sengoku finished speaking, everyone turned their attention to the man on Marineford's execution platform. Immediately afterwards, everyone saw Blackbeard take out a bottle of wine from somewhere. After uncorking the bottle, he just threw it on the execution platform and into the air. At the same time, he sighed softly. "Brother Ace, I'm sorry that I couldn't save you. However, the war cannot continue. We're leaving. Let's think of this drink as part of the money given to you." Hoo hoo hoo. The next moment, flames shot up from Blackbeard's feet into the sky. The entire execution platform was instantly enveloped in golden flames, and then melted into ashes under the watchful eyes of Marineford and everyone in the world. Ash. Many pirates below saw this scene and burst into tears. After seeing and hearing the color, Blackbeard was very satisfied with the effect. Next as the last. Above the sky, Blackbeard standing in the sky waved his hand and shouted. All the brothers of the Whitebeard pirates began to rescue the wounded, and then took the bodies and weapons of each brother. Be sure to leave without abandoning or giving up. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. All the members of the Whitebeard pirates roared in unison. At this time, among the Grand Line, Belt, Shanks, who was arriving on a white horse, was stunned when he saw the picture projected by the live phone bug. Not only him, but other Red Hair Pirates members also had their eyes gleaming. After a while, Shanks held back a sentence and said, "This guy Teach. Beckman, do you feel that what he says is so pretentious?" Beckman twitched the corner of his mouth and nodded in agreement. "Indeed, it is quite outrageous to say the words, 'I am here to end this war,' during the war between pirates and Marines under such a worldwide live broadcast." Shanks nodded wildly in agreement and said, "Yes, this guy is so stinky. The most disgusting thing is that he actually asked Marine to give him face. What's even more outrageous is that old guy Sengoku actually gave it to me. I can't accept it. How can there be such a pretentious person in the world?" Shanks was feeling prickly all over now. He couldn't explain clearly, and he felt like his luck had been taken away. After a pause, he couldn't help but said, "But, Beckman, don't you think this guy is real? The strength is also as strong as a monster. His current strength, I feel, is close to peak Whitebeard." "Is it so strong?" Beckman said in surprise. "That's natural." Shanks seemed to be reminiscing. "That's a man that even our top captain can only equal. It's just that Teach's strength is a little different from Yamato's. Teach's fruit power is so powerful, it can be said that each fruit is enough to push a master to the top. But Teach can get 3. It really makes me confused." Quote. Beckman looked at the slowly retreating pirates and the dilapidated Marineford, pondered for a few seconds and then said, "Shanks, I think there will be a sequel to this incident. Even if Marine dies, the world government will not let Whitebeard go so easily." And Blackbeard. "What do you think?" When Shanks heard this, his expression gradually became solemn. He turned to look at the helmsman and said, "Jarrus, turn around and head to Whitebeard Station. Deep Sea Prison, Impel Down Sea Area." At this time, looking from the sky towards the deep sea prison below, you can see that the sea surface within a radius of tens of kilometers around the deep sea prison has completely solidified. It's as if there is an extra continent. On the sea surface near Impel Down, there are various people transformed into statues in various poses and frozen on the sea surface. Among them are Impel Down's jailers, as well as the Minotaur Koala, and the Minotaur Rhinoceros, as well as several ability users after the failure of Zone's awakening. Others are members of the CP organization, including many CPO members wearing white suits. At this time, in the ruined and shattered port of Impel Down, a man wearing knight armor was sitting there with injuries all over his body. One of them, a man with white hair and a hairstyle like a crescent moon, held a live phone bug and took pictures of everything around Impel Down. Then the man sat down directly on the ground. His face was a little pale at this time, and he stared at the phone put aside and said, "This is what happened on the scene. Lord 5 Elders, there are far more troublesome guys coming out of Impel Down this time than we imagined. Although we killed many LV5, LV4, and LV3 criminals, we still couldn't stop them from escaping. Especially those monsters coming out of eternal hell, we can't stop them at all. Too strong. Now that one member of the Knights of God has died, I propose that one be recruited from the CPO or God's Punishment Army. This time we all suffered a lot of injuries and need to be repaired and strengthened. We have received your request. Thank you for your hard work this time, Saint Jeline." The voice of Jago Lucia Sardan Saint came from the other end of the phone. Chaka. After turning off the phone, the entire conference room was quiet for a few seconds. Then, the 5 elders' discussion started again. The summit war is over, and this time Marine is considered a heavenly being. Another failed execution. Marine is becoming more and more useless. 5 top combat forces are still showing such ugly behavior. Hey, this time it's not all Marine's fault. It's Blackbeard who is too abrupt. How can this guy master so many abilities? Just rely on a dark fruit. How is this possible? Will dark fruit have such miraculous effects after awakening? Maybe. No one seems to have reached the realm of Blackbeard before. Even the gate of justice can be swallowed up. This ability is no longer as simple as awakening. It seems that when I meet Lord I Am in 7 days, I will have to put Blackbeard's matter on the report form. Agree. Go back a few hours. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Blackbeard, who was sitting on the Moby Dick slowly leaving Marineford, looked at Whitebeard who was being treated by Marco and Q with all their strength and sighed. Dad, you don't blame me for taking matters into your own hands, do you? Eula la la la. Whitebeard, who was sitting on the chair, laughed and said. Teach, what are you talking about? If it weren't for your appearance, our trip to the Whitebeard pirates would have been in disaster. But I'm really useless, I couldn't even save Ace. Even the purpose of his trip was not achieved. I'm afraid I'm really going to die in regret. Quote. Having said this, Whitebeard glanced at the pale-faced Marco and slowly shook his head at Blackbeard before smiling. Gulu la la la. Marco, don't look like that. Lousy's own body, Lousy knows it. I have reached the end of my life. Dad. Marco opened his mouth but stopped talking. The other captains and captains of Whitebeard were also in disgrace at this moment, with bandages on their bodies, looking at this scene with sad expressions. Blackbeard on the side sighed and looked at Poison Q and said. Can't you even do anything? Poison Q shook his head and said. Captain, my ability is only to control germs, but I can't help people extend their lives. It's a miracle that Lord Whitebeard can hold on till now with his body like this. However, I used my abilities to help him achieve the longest duration. That is to say, Lord Whitebeard, he still has a week. Whoosh. Hearing this, the members of the Whitebeard pirates had expressions of disbelief on their faces. Originally they thought Whitebeard was going to die soon, but they didn't expect that he wouldn't survive a week. The kind of injury that Whitebeard suffered before made their scalps numb when they saw it. Coupled with the continuous battles with the 4 top marine combat forces and the damage caused by shock fruit, it is not easy to survive. Even Whitebeard was surprised. After being stunned for a while, he laughed happily and said. Eula la la la. I didn't expect that an old guy like me would have a chance to return to my hometown. Marco, turn around and go back to the Sphinx. Quote. Yes, Dad. Marco also showed a look of surprise after being stunned. 6 days later. Night, Sphinx. The Whitebeard pirates have been having a banquet here for 6 days. What shocked the captains of the Whitebeard pirates and their captains was that Whitebeard seemed to be a normal person. He drank wine and ate meat with his friends, and slept when he was tired. He spent 6 days in a lively manner. Many people even asked Marco and Poison Q if their diagnosis was wrong. In this regard, Poison Q's statement is that Whitebeard lives purely on his ability at the moment. Once his body function cannot support it, his ability will have no effect. When the time is up, he will die immediately. Although the members of the Whitebeard pirates couldn't believe Poison Q's statement, they still chose to accept it. Because before the banquet, Poison Q had already said it once. Whitebeard himself expressed acceptance, and others had nothing to say. What's more, this may be the best choice for Whitebeard. However, on the evening of the 6th day, the Sphinx welcomed a special guest. Red-haired Shanks, and his first officer, Ben Beckman. The two arrived quietly in a small boat. Even Whitebeard seemed very surprised by this situation. Then, Whitebeard, Blackbeard, Marco, Sage, Josie and Beasta came to Whitebeard's house with Shanks. Whitebeard, who was sitting in the main seat, looked at Shanks and laughed. Red-haired kid, what do you want to do by sneaking over here at this time? To explore the butcher's true identity. Having said that, Whitebeard stared at Shanks with slightly narrowed eyes. Shanks also stared at Whitebeard, but the two did not collide with hockey. But after a while, Shanks sighed and said, I'm here to see my old friend off for the last time. Hearing this, the atmosphere in the living room froze, and Marco suddenly said angrily. Red hair, why are you talking? Marco. Blackbeard directly pulled Marco back and asked him to sit down. Whitebeard looked at the red hair for a while and then smiled. Eula la la la. Red-haired kid, you are worthy of being Roger's heir. Have you also awakened to that power? Can you hear my lifespan? Ah, Shanks took a sip of wine and said with a somewhat sad tone. I can understand a little bit. Hearing this, Marco and others were a little confused. Blackbeard on the other side frowned and said tentatively. Listen to the sound of everything. You know too. Shanks looked at Blackbeard in surprise, and then understood. That's right, it's impossible for a guy like you not to know. You la 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 la. Whitebeard laughed. Shanks, tell me, what is your purpose for coming to me? If you really just want to give me a ride, you shouldn't come in this way at this time. You should come back tomorrow. Quote, whoosh. This time it was Shanks' turn to be shocked. He looked at Whitebeard in shock and said, Newgate, do you know when you are going to die? You la 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 la. Seeing Shanks' shocked look, Whitebeard laughed happily. Would you, a red-haired brat, be surprised? Do you want to know? I won't tell you. You have to tell me your purpose of coming here first, and then I'll think about it. Quote. When Shanks heard this, he couldn't help but dumbfounded. The corner of Ben Beckman's mouth on the other side also curved. This meeting seemed completely different from the tense situation he had imagined. That's good. While Ben Beckman was thinking about this, Shanks looked at Whitebeard after thinking for a moment and said, Newgate, first think, Marine. No, it should be that the world government will not let you Whitebeard pirates go easily. Ace is not the main factor. The real factor may be you, the Whitebeard pirates. Of course, things may be different now. Quote, hearing Shanks' words, Whitebeard narrowed his eyes slightly, seeming to be thinking about something. But Blackbeard on the side chuckled lightly and said, Is it me? Although it was a question, Blackbeard's tone was full of affirmation. Do you want to get the secret of multi-fruit ability from me? Those 5 old men were really greedy. Now that we have gained eternal life, why can't we stay well and avoid causing trouble? Ye. As soon as Blackbeard said this, there was an uproar in the entire hall. Even Whitebeard looked at Blackbeard with surprise. Hey, Teach, do you know what you're talking about? Eternal life. Does such a thing really exist? How is it possible? Absolutely impossible. Seeing everyone so excited, Shanks on one side spread his hands and said. But, no one thought it possible to have 3 devil fruit abilities before. As soon as Shanks said this, the whole hall suddenly became quiet again. Seeing this, Shanks looked at Blackbeard curiously and said, Teach, how did you know that the 5 elders had undergone immortality surgery? Then how did you know? Blackbeard looked at Shanks and smiled without saying a word. Shanks said slyly, You just told me. Blackbeard also shrugged and said, I didn't say immortality surgery, nor did I say that only those with the op fruit ability can undergo immortality surgery after awakening. I didn't even say that those with this ability would die after the surgery. Shanks, don't you know this very clearly? Even Beckman looked shocked at this time. When Marco heard this, he was immediately overjoyed and said, Teach, is there any way to find this op fruit user and let him? Marco paused at this point and couldn't continue. He knew it was ridiculous. Why would an awakened person with op fruit ability spend his life to perform immortality surgery on you? So whimsical. I know about this op fruit user. As soon as Blackbeard said this, everyone present was surprised, but they all understood that if it was really possible, Teach would find him. You were right, it is impossible. Not to mention that the other party is only in his 20s now, and he is still a rising star pirate in North Blue. He hasn't even mastered hockey yet, let alone the fruit awakening. What's more, when devil fruit awakens, it can't be awakened just by eating the fruit. Brother Chowsy should know this very well. Quote, after saying this, everyone looked at Chowsy with teasing smiles. Chowsy also scratched his head helplessly and said, Hey, I don't want to either, but I've been taking it for more than 20 years and I can't wake up and I don't know why. Snapped. Blackbeard snapped his fingers, looked at Shanks and smiled. Back to business. Shanks, what exactly are you trying to tell us here? I have long known the purpose of world government. I also understand that they will not let us off easily. The Whitebeard pirates. Maybe after the news of Dad's death spreads, our Whitebeard pirates will face a greater crisis. I understand all this. When the other captains of the Whitebeard pirate group heard Blackbeard's words, they all showed embarrassed looks on their faces. They really hadn't thought about such a far-reaching situation. It can be said that after returning from Summit War, many people relaxed and even indulged a lot. How can I think about the follow-up issues? Whitebeard's expression gradually became serious at this time. To be honest, he didn't think carefully about what Teach said. First, he knew that he would not live long, so he just wanted to focus more on these sons. The second is that he has been thinking about arrangements for funeral arrangements and heirs, and has never thought more about it. Now hearing Teach say this, his heart sank. Shanks took in the expressions of the captains of the white group, then looked at Blackbeard, then turned his eyes to Whitebeard and said, "Newgate, the main reason I came here this time is to tell you some information. Maybe it will be useful to you. World government, in the Holy Land, Mariajoy, there is also a 7 high-end combat force called Knights of God. Among these 7 people, 3 have the strength of the Marine Admiral, and 4 have the strength of the Admiral candidate. This time, they lost a high-end combat force in the Impel Down battle. However, I believe it won't take long to make up for it. If the world government really wants to conquer the Whitebeard pirates soon, then this Knights of God will inevitably be sent out by them. Hopefully, you will be ready by then." Quote, hiss. Shanks' words immediately made everyone present gasp. They never thought that what Shanks was going to say would be such explosive news. This really shocked them. Even Whitebeard was the same. After being silent for a few seconds, he smiled and said, "Shanks, your information is very important to us. It's a pity that I can't promise you anything now. But, we, the Whitebeard pirates, owe you a favor. As for this favor, in the future, just ask Teach for it. My legacy must be left to the elders in my hometown." Gu la 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 la. So your choice was Teach. Shanks also laughed. He had already expected this choice. On the contrary, Blackbeard was a little surprised. Marco and the others also patted Blackbeard on the shoulders as they had expected, laughing and teasing. "Teach, from now on, shall we call you Captain, or Lord Blackbeard?" After Blackbeard smiled, Japan said seriously, "Then it's better to call me Lord Blackbeard with more dignity. After all, there's only one word different from my father's name." "Screw you." Marco punched Blackbeard on the shoulder. "Ha ha ha. Gu la la la." Whitebeard and the other captains also burst into laughter when they saw this. No one had any doubts about Whitebeard's decision, and no one had any sense. Now it's time to find the candidate to inherit all the forces under Whitebeard's banner. No one can do it except Blackbeard. Not even Marco. Dong, dong, dong. When Whitebeard was chatting with Shanks about regretting the years, Blackbeard couldn't help but smile when he heard the bells in his mind. The 3 scales are accumulated again. It seems that I can improve myself again. Unexpectedly, Impel had just used up 3 accumulated scales when he went down, and Marineford actually filled them up again in the battle. Just when Blackbeard was thinking about this, he suddenly felt that the bell this time seemed to be more than just a reminder of the accumulated scale of the traveler's clock. Under the cover of drinking, Blackbeard's consciousness entered the traveler's space, and soon his smile became a little thicker. Not only did the scale accumulate to 3 scales, but the second hand did not stop when it accumulated to 3 scales. This is where things get interesting. And, looking at the shining silver of the traveler's clock, Blackbeard fell into deep thought. The traveler's clock seems to be different this time. He didn't know the specific difference yet. Is it because of the Summit War? Just as he was thinking about this, Shanks also said goodbye. Whitebeard asked him to come back at noon tomorrow. As for why he came back at noon tomorrow, everyone understood what he meant. Because Poison Q said that Whitebeard can only last 7 days at most. Once the 7 days are up, the fire of life will be extinguished. Today is already the night of the 6th day, and it will not be long before the morning of the 7th day. When Whitebeard offered to see off the guests, Marco and the others followed him out. At this moment, Whitebeard, who was sitting in the hall, suddenly said, "Teach, you stay." Hearing this, Blackbeard turned his head to look at Whitebeard behind him in surprise, then nodded to Marco and the others before returning to the hall again. After Marco and the others walked out of the yard and closed the door, Whitebeard looked at Blackbeard and smiled. "Teach, does your ability to devour fruits have to wait until the other party is dead?" When Blackbeard heard this, his heart moved. Whitebeard said this at this time, could it be? Thinking of this, he nodded directly and said, "Yes, it was the same during the previous summit war. After Ace's life disappeared, I gained some of his fruit abilities. Gu la la la, then after I die, the ability of shock fruit will be handed over to you, Teach." Whitebeard laughed with satisfaction and said, "From now on, the Whitebeard pirates will be left to you. After I die, your Blackbeard pirates will take the lead. If anyone else is dissatisfied, just say what I say. Or, you can defeat them directly. This is how we pirates do things. But we are all partners, so we should not be too harsh and embarrass those fool's sons." Gu la la la, _ Blackbeard couldn't help but feel emotional when he heard this. Unexpectedly, Whitebeard left him here specifically to explain this matter and give the shock fruit to him. Originally, he planned to use these 3 scales for Conqueror's promotion, but now, shock fruit must be more important. After pondering for a few seconds, Blackbeard nodded and said, "Okay, everything is as Dad said. However, if I want to swallow shock fruit, I have to prepare a lot. Don't take too long, Teach. It won't be long before we have Dad." While speaking, Blackbeard sat directly on the chair he had been sitting on before, then closed his eyes, and his consciousness began to enter the traveler's space. Soon he thought, and the 3 accumulated scales turned into silver light and enveloped Blackbeard's consciousness. Whitebeard, who was sitting outside, also saw a burst of silver light appearing on Blackbeard's body, and he was also a little curious about this. "After some investigation, I couldn't find any clues." This made Whitebeard laugh and shake his head. Soon, as the silver light on Blackbeard's body flashed, he opened his eyes again. This time Blackbeard had an excited smile on his face. Done. Munch Munch Fruit's Devouring God has also completed its evolutionary expansion. The current status of Devouring God is God Devouring 2/4, which means that this expansion adds 2 more swallowing limits to the Devouring God. He is now looking forward to what will happen to this God-eating ability after Munch Munch Fruit awakens. Compared with the ability of God Eater, Munch Munch Fruit's ability to produce special metals has become unimportant. Although this special metal plays a huge role in the advancement of industry and technology, now is not the time for Blackbeard to consider this. If you want to develop farming, you must first have a stable social environment. Given the troubled times in the pirate world, it is impossible to farm such a field. What you have worked so hard to build may one day be shattered with just one punch. This is an era where it is far easier to destroy than to build. If one day he tramples celestial dragons and I am under his feet and becomes invincible, he may have this consideration. Gu la 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 la, look at you looking so happy, are you ready, Teach? Whitebeard's laughter interrupted Blackbeard's thoughts. Hearing this, Z nodded and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha ha, it's true. I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. A person with 4 fruit abilities. It's really magical." Whitebeard shook his head and sighed, then changed the subject and said solemnly, "Teach, I would like to know, what are your plans next? If what Shanks said is true, the world government may come knocking on the door soon. This time they take the initiative to attack, I'm afraid it will be even more dangerous." After hearing this, Blackbeard was silent for a few seconds, then suddenly grinned and said, "I also think so. Therefore, after this time, I will find a larger uninhabited desert island as a temporary base, practice there, and wait for people from the world government to come. It's just that world government had better not come. Otherwise, this time, even if they have Marine Admiral level combat power, I will leave 1 or 2 of them behind." Thief, ha ha ha. If this is your decision, then go for it. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard also smiled and said, "I can already feel that my life is coming to an end. There is nothing I can do to help you anymore, so consider this shock fruit as my parting gift to you. Teach, protect your family." At the end of the sentence, Whitebeard gradually closed his eyes with a smile. A generation of legendary pirates, once the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard Edward Newgate, has come to an end. Blackbeard, who was standing aside, had mixed feelings, but he knew that this was not the time to hesitate. For a moment, endless darkness enveloped the entire hall. At the same time, Holy Land, Mariajoy, Pengu City Conference Room. The 5 elders looked at the documents on the table and started a discussion after a few seconds of silence. "Sengoku recommends Aokiji to become Marine Marshal, what do you think?" Aokiji is indeed good, but I prefer Akainu. The same is true for me. Unfortunately, Akainu is definitely not good. His arm was broken and he was beaten by Blackbeard in Summit War. His performance was too bad. I can only say that Blackbeard is too outrageous. Will Dark Fruit really mutate after awakening? Let Vegapunk find a chance to study it. Please, we are now talking about the appointment of Marshal Marine. Sengoku and the others will be here in a moment. If Akainu is excluded, there seems to be no one except Aokiji, right? How about going up? Do you dare to let him sit in that position? Then it's Aokiji. Agree. Early the next morning, Sengoku received a notification from 5 elders. Then, he took Aokiji with a solemn expression to the Holy Land and entered Pengu City. Aokiji tried his best not to let his knowledge spread out, lest seeing those ugly faces would make him go berserk, and it would be terrible if he accidentally froze the entire Holy Land. Soon, after receiving the report from the 5 elders, Yunnan returned to the naval headquarters sub-base with Sengoku again. In the conference room, Sengoku faced the marine executive sitting in the conference room at this time. He was also the highest combat power of marine at the moment. However, the veteran vice admiral was missing one person, namely Ghost Spider, and everyone else was also covered in glory. Even Garp is like that. Akainu even broke his arm directly, and there was a line of scarlet blood seeping out of his chest due to the bandage. The cleanest one is probably Kizaru. This guy fought a big battle and his clothes were not even torn. Oh, maybe he went back and changed his clothes before coming back. After all, he can still do it with his ability. It is precisely because of this that Kizaru feels a little uncomfortable sitting here when he sees a lot of colleagues who are wearing glamour, but he is the only one who looks glamorous. If he didn't have a meeting, he would have gone on vacation. This summit war was really boring. Just when Kizaru was restless, Sengoku walked in with BBEF Aokiji. At this time, many people focused their attention on Akainu, but Akainu lowered his eyes and didn't know what he was thinking. Sengoku came to the conference table and coughed dryly before saying, "Ahem, everyone." After discussions between the 5 elders and the others, Naozan was finally selected as the next Marine Marshal in the personnel selection process for the new Marine Marshal. He will take office soon. Quote, "Wow." The people who were just curious to eat the melon at first were immediately in an uproar. You know, before this, many people thought that Akainu had a greater chance of obtaining the qualification of Marshal. After all, he personally killed the son of Pirate King Roger during the Summit War. This is actually a great achievement. What's more, in the past, the reputation of clan dogs was always more valued by the 5 elders. This unusual choice of Kuzan surprised many people. But soon they all realized again. Although Akainu killed Roger's son with his own hands this time, the scene in which he had his arm cut off by the pirate emperor Blackbeard and was beaten violently during the Summit War was broadcast live all over the world. It would indeed be inappropriate to choose him as Marine Marshal again. Moreover, Akainu now has a broken arm and has lost some of his strength, so he cannot be Kuzan's opponent in a real fight. After all, the two of them are almost the same. In addition, Aokiji first blocked Whitebeard's sea shock to prevent the marine from being defeated at the beginning, and then froze Marineford to prevent it from falling apart and reducing a large number of marine deaths. This is also a great achievement. Thinking of this, everyone understood. Sengoku looked at the stunned people and shouted, "Why are you standing there? Applaud." Bang, bang, bang. After everyone came to their senses, they immediately laughed, clapped and congratulated. Aokiji scratched his head and said, "Mr. Sengoku, he will take office soon. Is it too fast?" "Not too fast." Sengoku sighed and said, "Although we killed Fire Fist Ace in this Summit War, our marine has already lost." Not only was Marineford, the naval headquarters, sunk, countless marine soldiers were killed or seriously injured, and even the Ghost Spider Vice Admiral was sacrificed. The price we Marines paid was too high. Heavy. This is clearly a losing war. But Marine is not allowed to fail, and the world government does not allow Marine to fail. Then only I am a failure. Yi. As soon as Sengoku said this, all the Marine executives who had been smiling before changed their expressions, and then everyone in the entire conference room immediately became angry. "Mr. Sengoku, how can you say that? It's not your turn to take the blame for this, right? It's obviously a war designated by the world government, so why should you take the responsibility? That's right. Let us, Marine, fight Whitebeard without even investigating the intelligence. We let Blackbeard take advantage of such a huge loophole. How dare we let Mr. Sengoku take the blame? It's really ugly. Even if Summit War didn't do anything to help, it can't even stop Impel Down's prisoners, and we, Marshal Sengoku, are still going to take the blame. Those 5 old guys are nothing. Sengoku, why did you agree to such a thing? Seeing everyone's indignant looks, Sengoku smiled innocently. Immediately, he waved his hand and said seriously, "Everyone, if it was just my personal problem, I would naturally be too lazy to care about them. But this matter concerns the honor of the entire Marine and all soldiers. How could I let the soldiers who were injured in the war bear the responsibility for this failure again? As Marshal Marine, if I don't stand up now, we'll first wait until Marine becomes the name of the world. I appreciate your kindness, but who else would this matter be? No need to discuss further. Kuzan, Marine's future is in your hands." After saying that, Sengoku patted Aokiji on the shoulder. In the conference room, everyone was silent for a while. The next day, Marine held a press conference at the Sabayati archipelago. Marine Marshal Sengoku admitted that this war was a failure of his command, and that he was too hasty and not fully prepared, which led to Marine's heavy losses. Marine Admiral Sengoku stated that he will bear all the responsibilities for this war, and for this reason he will resign as Marine Admiral and hand it over to Marine Admiral Aokiji, who made great contributions in the Summit War. At this point, the press conference ends. At the same time, New World, Sphinx Island. At noon the next day, the Whitebeard pirates, together with the Red Hair pirates, held a funeral for Whitebeard. At Whitebeard's request, the funeral will be kept simple. Moreover, at the funeral, Marco took out the last words prepared by Whitebeard and explained the future direction and ownership of the Whitebeard pirates. The Whitebeard pirates have been disbanded since then. I hope that all my friends can join the Blackbeard pirates, led by Teach. I believe that under the leadership of Teach, you will go further and live a better life. Finally, silly sons, please take good care of yourself and eat well." Quote. After Marco finished reading the last words, the entire funeral scene was filled with tears. Shanks and others standing aside were also extremely emotional. Beckman looked at Blackbeard, who stood silently in front of Whitebeard's tombstone, and Kong Yunchi for a long time, and said, "The era of Whitebeard has passed, will the era of Blackbeard come?" "Huh." Uninvited guest. Almost at the same time, Beckman and Shanks looked up to the sky. Blackbeard, who was facing away from everyone and feeling the atmosphere on his back, suddenly raised his head and looked up at the sky. At this time, the sky was filled with white clouds, occasionally revealing a pure blue sky, which looked incredibly beautiful. But at this moment, a huge ship that looked like an island slowly floated out from the white clouds and flew towards the Sphinx. The members of the Whitebeard pirates, who were in grief, also realized something was wrong. Everyone looked up to the sky. After seeing the big ship in the sky, many old people in the Whitebeard pirate group changed their expressions and subconsciously exclaimed, "That ship is Golden Lion Shiki." That's right, it's definitely Shiki's big ship. But why did he come here at this time? Isn't this old guy still alive? What does he want to do? Did he come to express his condolences to Dad? But that's not right. How did he know that Dad passed away today? Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates group also fell into the water one by one. No one knows why the Golden Lion came to the Sphinx at this time. Seeing this scene, Blackbeard couldn't help but frown. Is it really the Golden Lion? Just when everyone was thinking this, Golden Lion's iconic laughter came from the sky. "Whitebeard lousy came to see you off. I didn't expect that you old guy would die earlier than me. Since you are dead, then give your territory to lousy." Gia ha 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 ha. Hearing Golden Lion's words, the faces of the Whitebeard pirates, who were still in a sad atmosphere, all changed. Everyone looked up with fierce expressions at the figure with flying blonde hair standing on the bow of the ship in the sky. If it weren't for the fact that his legs turned into his dead wood and Sakura 10, with a funny rudder stuck on his head, he would really be as majestic as Haki, who was once the pirate fighter, Golden Lion. "Shiki, are you out of your mind? Are you here to provoke me to start a war?" The green flames on Marco's body soared into the sky, and he spoke with a cold expression. The golden lion floated down from the sky with a wreath in his hand. He didn't care about the killing intent in the eyes of Marco and everyone around him, and landed directly not far from Whitebeard's tombstone. While walking slowly to Blackbeard's side, he placed wreaths were hung on the tombstones. Then, Golden Lion raised his hand and brought a large bottle of wine down from the air. He laughed to himself and said, "Newgate, when Roger died, I went crazy once, and that time I broke both legs. Gia ha 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 ha." Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates just frowned when they saw this scene and did not bother them. After all, they really came to express their condolences. Shanks on the side also fell into deep thought after hearing this. After learning that Roger was executed by Marine, the Golden Lion took several islands and rushed straight to the naval headquarters, Marineford, killing Marine's head. It was also at that time that he was defeated by the Top Garp and Sengoku. In order to escape from the deep-sea prison, he paid the price of his legs. Gudong gudong gudong. Golden Lion poured himself wine, and after finishing it, he fell in front of the tombstone. His eyes gradually became brighter. "This time I just have time to see you off, as the last afterglow of the times." Having said this, Golden Lion suddenly turned around, glanced at everyone including Blackbeard and shouted, "I'm here not only to express my condolences, but also to declare war." Yee! Everyone's expressions changed immediately when they heard this. What does this Golden Lion mean? Marco on the other side wanted to scold him, but his shoulders were held down by Blackbeard, who narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Golden Lion, Shiki, you should know what you're talking about. If you think that our Whitebeard pirates have lost a lot of strength after fighting the Summit War, then you are wrong. Today, the Whitebeard pirates are led by me, Blackbeard Marshal Teach. If you want to fight, then fight. But, Shiki, don't blame me for not reminding you. If you measure us by the Summit War, you will die miserably." Gia ha 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 ha. Golden Lion laughed when he heard this and said, "Blackbeard's courage is good, but you are far behind Newgate. I came here today to express my condolences to Newgate. Lousy won't fight with you. I will come to you in a month. I hope that by then, you won't be able to speak like you do today." Quote. Having said this, Golden Lion glanced around everyone and laughed. "If you lose in the future, I will not only want Newgate's territory, but I will also want you people. Gia ha 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 ha. Call out." After saying that, the Golden Lion soared directly into the sky, and in an instant it was on top of the flying pirate ship hundreds of meters above the sky. After the Golden Lion left, all the captains and 43 captains of the Whitebeard pirates gathered around him. Blackbeard did not speak to them immediately, but turned to look at Shanks aside and said, "Red Hair, the next thing is our Whitebeard pirates' internal affairs, so I'm sorry for the inconvenience." Shanks opened his mouth and was about to say something, but his shoulder was bumped by Beckman. Then he smiled and said, "Okay, let's go first. Teach, you have to take what I said last night into consideration." After saying that, Shanks left with a group of members of the Red Hair Pirates. When they completely left the Sphinx, the members of the Black Group also came over and sat around Blackbeard. On the left side of Blackbeard are the members of the Black Group headed by Enel and Shiryu, and on the right side are the members of the White Group headed by Marco, Saki and others. At this time, after they saw Blackbeard sit down, everyone also sat down at Blackbeard's signal. At this time, Saki, who was relatively impatient, said, "Teach, why did you agree to Shiki's declaration of war so easily just now? Many of our brothers have just come back from the top, and many of them are war-weary." Others couldn't help but nod secretly when they heard this. Marco on the side frowned when he heard this and wanted to scold Thatch, but was stopped by Blackbeard. He did not express any dissatisfaction with what Sage said. After he finished speaking, Blackbeard smiled and said, "Why do you think Shiki, this sinister old guy, came to us at this time?" That's right, Golden Lion is an insidious pirate hero in Blackbeard's memory. He is a real pirate. Although he is loyal, he is the kind of pirate who has no bottom line. In the memory of the previous life, in the theatrical version where Golden Lion appeared, in order to avoid a head-on battle with the Straw Hats, this guy used the uncle next door method to deceive the Straw Hats into trusting him, and then took the opportunity to kidnap Nami. With the strength of the Golden Lion, he could completely crush the Straw Hats head-on and take them away, but he used such despicable methods. If it weren't for the protagonist's aura, Luffy and the others wouldn't even be qualified to meet the Golden Lion. Why would such a former pirate admiral do such a thing to King Luffy and the others? It's because he has no bottom line. As long as he wants it, he can use any despicable means to achieve it. Therefore, Blackbeard knew that when the Golden Lion came to visit this time, it was definitely not just a matter of declaring war. After everyone present heard Blackbeard's words, they all expressed their opinions. I think Shiki, this old guy, just saw that Dad was gone and thought we were easy to bully, so he deliberately made some kind of declaration of war. He must have watched the Summit War and knew that we suffered heavy losses, so he wanted to take advantage of it. Don't be ridiculous, what can a Golden Lion Shiki do when our Captain Teach is here? Since Golden Lion has watched Summit War, he should know Teach's methods, and he should not be so unwise. Does he have any backup plan? Everyone in the white group and the black group expressed their opinions. Seeing this, Blackbeard's smile faded, he raised 2 fingers and said, I think there are 2 reasons why Golden Lion dared to come to us. First, he gained a powerful support. Second, the world government has provided strength behind the scenes. Therefore, this declaration of war is likely not to be a full-scale war like the Summit War, but a competition of high-end combat power. As soon as this statement came out, everyone present was shocked. Wow, everyone in the black group present was shocked after hearing Blackbeard's analysis. Teach, you mean that Golden Lion might join forces with Marine and world government? Marco spoke with astonishment on his face. It shouldn't be possible, right? He is also a pirate admiral, Golden Lion. Josie on the side also frowned. Others looked at each other and talked about it. Blackbeard sneered and said, so many years have passed since he escaped from Golden Lion. He came out sooner rather than later, but he came out at this time. Just because he can arrive at such an accurate time today, it is certain that he must be connected with the world government. Think about it, Dad's death was not long. Only the brothers who were on the Moby Dick and several nearby ships heard it. Go to 2 or 3. It's only been a week since I returned from Summit War. If it is possible that the world government can detect our information, even Shanks came to inform us of something, and only then did he learn about Dad's physical condition. Golden Lion is a pirate group based in the sky, how did he know about it? Even if he goes to the Morgans in the underground world to buy information, how will he buy it? Purchase Dad's exact time of death. Is it possible? Obviously this is impossible. Then, there is only one truth. Golden Lion and world government have joined forces. Quote. Hiss. Everyone present gasped when they heard what Blackbeard said. From the time when the Golden Lion came to express condolences to when he declared war, the time was only a few minutes, right? Could it be that Teach had already analyzed so many things at that time? Although they didn't want to admit it, they still felt a kind of IQ suppression. To be honest, I still can't believe that Shiki would join forces with world government. Marco shook his head and sighed. Blackbeard chuckled and said, Marco, are you putting too much emphasis on this guy? Do you really think that he and his father are legends of the same era and glorify him too much? Let me tell you clearly that Golden Lion is a real pirate, and he and his father are 2 different creatures. He can do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. This is why he deliberately chose to declare war with us today when he came to express his condolences to his father. He not only wants the territory of our entire Whitebeard pirates, but also wants everyone under the Whitebeard pirates. All he wants is strength. That's why I said that this time the battle will only involve high-end combat power competition. Although I don't know what benefits the world government has promised him, but they will bite the dog after all. We just need to win this war. Quote. Upon hearing this, everyone present fell into deep thought. Beasta said at this time, Teach, I am not destroying my prestige. If we really want to fight for high-end combat power, our numbers may not be enough. In Summit War, there are 2 foreign aides called by you, Bullet and Red Earl. They were the ones who stopped Garp and Sengoku. Otherwise, it's hard to say whether we can retreat safely. Saki also sighed and said, Yes, when it comes to high-end combat power, we really don't have an advantage. Everyone else also fell silent. Although the words were unpleasant, Beasta and Saki were right. If Golden Lion really joins forces with the world government, they will definitely have an advantage in terms of high-end combat power. Here, they can compete with the Marine Admiral level combat power. Only Blackbeard has the upper hand, Enel can hold one down, and Shiryu of the Rain can fight inextricably with Hawkeye and hold down one. Marco can be considered as able to hold one back. But they can only delay. If it is a matter of victory or death, they will lose in the end. The rest is still far behind. Even for veteran white team players like Diamond Josie, the gap between him and Admiral is still not small. It can only be said that his development of fruits is too poor. Then there are Badgers, Van Oka, and Crow from the Black Group. These three guys are equally powerful. But they still need time to grow. As for Moria's zombie army, although it is terrifying, to be honest, it has little impact on high-end combat power. E is threatening, that is, the San Juan wolf known as the giant battleship, who has been eating it from beginning to end today. It can only be said that Juan's transformation and the powerful scene of smashing the pacifists in Wutai with one punch shocked many people in the white group. If one was hit by a monster like that, even Moby Dick would be shattered by a punch. But Juan's weaknesses are also very obvious: slow speed and large size. When encountering monster-level top-notch combat power, Juan is a pure target and can be slaughtered by the Ku people. After a comparison, everyone present found that each of these cadres of the Black Group had the potential to be promoted to Admiral. It's Thunder Fruit, it's a fantasy beast species similar to Kaido, it's Momo Fruit, and it even has an ability similar to Logia's Wind and Wind Fruit. There is also a terrifying giant who can transform into an Admiral candidate level combat power. Each ability looks extremely terrifying. Even Shichibukai level masters like Moria can only serve as ordinary crew members. There are also former CP9 masters like Rob Lucci on board. If the Blackbeard pirates really grow, the future will be limitless. No wonder Marine and world government can't sit still. Thinking of this, everyone was curious, how on earth would Blackbeard, the new leader of the Five Emperors, solve the gap in the highest combat power? At the same time, above the sky dozens of kilometers away from the territorial waters of the Blackbeard pirates, several people were sitting in the hall of Golden Lion's flying fleet. On the left are several strong men of different sizes wearing black suits, and on the right are the two men wearing white suits and masks. Gia haha. When Golden Lion saw the two sides glaring at each other, he immediately laughed and said, "If you are so familiar, then I still have to introduce you. After all, it is more formal and ceremonial. Friend of the CPO, this is my Vice Captain Lu Jinx Lai. Well, you must have interacted with him not long ago. He is the Instant Magellan, the Paramecia who has the ability to solidify the sea and the solidification fruit ability. I don't know if you two CPOs know him. I think they know each other. After all, Lai just escaped from the deep sea prison not long ago and beat your CPO and the Knights of God into a state of disarray." Gia ha 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 ha. Red Line, Holy Land, Mariajoy. In the Pengu City conference room. Have you discussed it with Golden Lion? Well, there is news from the Monkey Demon that the discussion has been completed. As we guessed, the guy who came out of Impel Down really went to find the Golden Lion. It's a bit tricky. What, even Lu Jinx went? That's right, not only Lu Jinx, but also several other Impel Down and Quasi-Admiral level guys. I don't know how they found the Golden Lion so quickly. It's probably what Golden Lion said to them after he was captured into eternal hell. Are we going to send Marine out this time? Asked Sengoku. Oh, no, it should be Aokiji. At least let them send out an Admiral level combatant. Otherwise, if you want to take down Blackbeard, the Knights of God alone will not be enough. Seraphs should all mobilize this time. We can no longer give Blackbeard room to grow. Blackbeard must be dealt with this time. That's right, this time I will lead the team myself. Blackbeard, a cancerous person, must not be given time to him. Seconded. New Naval Headquarters. Room 11, Marshal's office. Aokiji sat behind the desk, looked at the 6 people sitting in front of him and said in a deep voice, "That's what the 5 elders ordered. This time we go to exterminate Blackbeard. Which one of you will take the initiative to participate? If there is no one, I will let the T-Dolphin deal with it. In this summit war, our Marine's vitality has been severely damaged and we cannot withstand the continuous losses. At least one Admiral plus double the power of Buster Call. All go." Before Aokiji could finish his words, Akainu, who was sitting aside and wearing a dark red suit with a pink rose pinned to his chest, interrupted Aokiji's words and spoke in a deep voice. Since they are the ones who have spoken, we cannot refuse even if we want to. What's more, we can't let the new Green Bull join the war, right? Let him get familiar with Admiral things first, and leave it to me this time. Quote. Sakazuki, your injury. Aokiji was not displeased, but looked at Akainu's broken arm with some concern. It's no longer a problem. You should know that this kind of injury has little impact on us Logia ability users. Akainu spoke forcefully. Hearing his words, Green Bull Aramu, who was sitting on the other side, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said with a smile. As expected of Sakazuki Admiral. Aokiji did not reply immediately, but turned to look at Sengoku, who had a head full of white hair and was wearing a blue shirt and white shorts while riding the Supreme Speed Drag and said. Mr. Sengoku, what do you think? PFF ha 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 ha. Before Sengoku could speak, Fujiadian smiled and said. How else can he watch? Of course he stands and watches. He is no longer a marshal now, Kuzan. Sengoku also grinned. Kuzan, you are the marshal. Allah Allah, it's really troublesome. Aokiji scratched his head, then turned to look at Crane Vice Admiral aside. The latter had been deep in thought, and when she saw Aokiji looking over, she did not immediately answer his words, but suddenly turned her head to look at Su Daodao. Sakazuki, if the world government and the pirates join forces this time, will you still go? Or, can you not promise to take action against this pirate ally? What? Akainu suddenly raised his head and looked at Crane Vice Admiral in disbelief. Aokiji also frowned and said, Granmahi, the 5 elders didn't tell us that they were joining forces with pirates. What do you mean? Hearing this, Kizaru, who had always had nothing to do with himself, frowned. In his opinion, this kind of thing was very similar to what the 5 elders would do. But he opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. On the other hand, Sengoku no longer smiled playfully, but fell into deep thought. Crane Vice Admiral did not delay and stated his analysis in one breath. A week ago, the prisoners from Impel Down Eternal Hell escaped and they released all the prisoners in Impel Down. Not only did these guys take away most of the elite fugitives from Impel Down, but there were also a few old monsters among them. Instead of running away in a hurry, they stayed where they were and had a fight with the CPO sent by the world government and the Knights of God. Great War. We don't know how many old monsters were killed in that battle. But one of the Knights of God was lost, and most of the CP0 sent there died. The sea is still frozen. Looking at this momentum, it is only stronger than Aokiji's Ice Age when the sea was frozen. There is no trace of these people escaping now. And it was such a large group of people. There are only 2 ways for them to escape Marine's pursuit, or they go to another Fishmen island under the sea that we have never discovered. Or, they are hiding in the sky. I received information yesterday that the Whitebeard pirates held a funeral for Whitebeard at the Sphinx. The red-haired Shanks was present. Later, even the flying pirates of the Golden Lion, who had disappeared for more than 10 years, were also present. Of course, to be precise, Golden Lion alone came to express his condolences. But yesterday was both a condolence and a declaration of war. The Golden Lion's flying pirates took a fancy to the Whitebeard pirates' territory, so they declared war on Whitebeard. Blackbeard agreed to declare war, so it's not appropriate for guests to choose Japan. You just said that the 5 old men said that the government was gathering strength and decided to launch a raid on Blackbeard in a month. Even this time, the 5 elders Jago Lucia Sardan will personally lead the team. When these pieces of information are combined, can't you see the problem? Hiss. Boom. Boom. After Hajong finished speaking, there was a sound of inhalation in the entire marshal's office, and the sound of Akainu smashing the seat with an angry punch. What he hates most in his life is pirates. If he were to join forces with the pirates, it would be even more uncomfortable than killing him. Akainu gritted his teeth. Kizaru's face was equally gloomy. These old guys really didn't treat them as human beings. Garp couldn't laugh at this time, and said with the same ugly face. What does he think of us Marine? 5 old immortal guys. Want to destroy Blackbeard, they can do it themselves if they can. What the hell, let us Marine and pirates join forces to destroy the pirates. Is this something a human can do? Are their brains just like the pigs they raised? Are they just pretending to be shit? Aramaki on the side was shocked when he heard this. He did not expect that Garp would not take celestial dragons seriously at all, and even the 5 elders would scold them. This frightened him, who was attending such a meeting for the first time. Why do you feel that Vice Admiral Garp is more powerful than Sakazuki Admiral? Aokiji's face didn't look very good either. He didn't expect that the 5 elders would deliberately conceal such important information from him, the Marine Marshal. His expression was cold and stern, and finally he fell on the green bull Huangmu and sighed. Otherwise, I'd better trouble Aramu to make a trip this time, and just treat it as a formality. New World, Sphinx. After Blackbeard had a meeting with the captains of the Whitebeard pirate group and the captains of his pirate ships, he asked them to go back and rest first. Even if you have to prepare for war, don't rush for one day. After all, today is Whitebeard's farewell party, and there is no need to keep talking about the war in a month's time. On the contrary, Blackbeard's confident attitude also gave everyone a lot of confidence. Although they didn't understand who Blackbeard was trying to pull to resist the Marine Admiral, and the admiral power hidden by the world government, the scene where Blackbeard defeated both admirals in the Summit War gave them a lot of confidence. Coupled with Whitebeard's last words, from now on the Whitebeard pirates will be disbanded and all members will be merged into the Blackbeard pirates. Everyone also understands that after today, Blackbeard will be the boss of them all. With Summit War's loyalty and the fact that Blackbeard safely took all the remaining personnel away from naval headquarters, this was enough for them to convince him. After everyone left, Blackbeard also returned to the captain's cabin of Arc Proverbs. He can't wait to check out the functions brought about by the new changes in Traveler's Clock. After entering the captain's cabin, Blackbeard immediately lay down on the bed, closed his eyes and entered the consciousness space to become a minister. Soon he discovered that the second hand of the Traveler's Clock rotated twice as fast as before, and after he entered this space, streaks of silver-white light floated down from the Traveler's Clock and engulfed him, in the mind. Blackbeard is still very familiar with this scene. He also experienced this scene when he just traveled through time. After that, he obtained information about the Traveler's Clock and how to use it. In this situation, Blackbeard is not panicked. Sure enough, he immediately received new information from the Traveler's Clock. This new amount of information is somewhat similar to the exploration function. However, this detection function is to detect the awakening of Devil Fruit. It can discover in advance what abilities the fruit will have after awakening, or in what direction it will be developed. Blackbeard would be more excited if he saw this ability at the beginning of time travel. But at this time, this ability seems to be just that. The prerequisite for being able to see the changes after Devil Fruit awakens is that he must have the ability of this fruit to be able to do so. The fruits Blackbeard eats are basically based on his own understanding of the fruit's awakening. But Blackbeard soon stopped thinking so. Because when he was trying to use this function, he discovered the amazing ability of Munch Munch Fruit after awakening. Blackbeard discovered that after Munch Munch Fruit awakens, it will have the ability to swallow time and space. By using this ability to devour a space-time, the time flow rate in this space-time can be controlled by the ability user himself, and entering this space will not reduce his lifespan due to the increase in time flow rate. After discovering this skill, Blackbeard's eyes suddenly lit up. Isn't this completely equivalent to a cultivation artifact? As for the specific time ratio, Blackbeard still doesn't know, but this ability is worth him to try. Just do it if you think of it. Blackbeard did not hesitate at all and directly used the 3 ticks that had been accumulated rapidly in the Sphinx recently. Soon, Blackbeard was wrapped in silver light and entered a wonderful state. When he used all the power of silver light on the awakening of Munch Munch Fruit quickly entered the awakening stage. One person has 4 fruit abilities, and 4 abilities are awakened. Even if he faces 3 admirals at this time, he is sure to be invincible. No way. It's really because Blackbeard's abilities are among the top villages in Devil Fruit. A phantom beast with a perfectly strengthened body. Logia capable of elementalization. The all-devouring Paramecia. And Dark Fruit, whose gravity determines everything. Just one of these 4 abilities is enough to make people fight to the death, but Blackbeard has 4 of them. The effects of having so many abilities are also significant. Haki's power hasn't reached its peak yet, and he hasn't even mastered Conqueror's entanglement yet. No way, there are too many places where scales need to be used. As for other abilities, we can only put them aside for a while. After all, Conqueror's entanglement has not yet been mastered. Now we have to use these 3 accumulated scales to awaken Munch Munch Fruit. No way, Munch Munch Fruit's post-awakening abilities are so useful. Especially for the current Blackbeard pirates, they want something that can buy time. Blackbeard believes that as long as he gives them time to practice, his crew will make great progress. You must know that they have all participated in the Summit War, witnessed such a big scene and survived, so they can give other people in the Black Group a great breakthrough on hockey. Start awakening. With this in mind, Blackbeard directly applied the scale energy to Munch Munch Fruit's ability. Buzz. His body gradually calmed down after a burst of white light flashed, and then Blackbeard's face suddenly showed joy. Because he has perfectly obtained the power after awakening from Munch Munch Fruit. The awakening of Munch Munch Fruit brings 2 skills to Blackbeard. The first skill is called Time and Space Swallow. Use the ability to swallow a piece of time and space to form a stable and huge space, and the time flow rate within it is 1, which means that 1 hour in the swallowing space is equivalent to 2 times in the real world, days, and the life cycle in space will not be shortened. The second skill is called Energy Devouring. It can swallow the energy between heaven and earth to feed itself back, or improve its physical strength, or restore its own consumed physical energy. It can also use the energy converted from the energy between heaven and earth to use recover from injuries. Blackbeard is extremely satisfied with these 2 skills. Not only does it solve the time problem that the Blackbeard pirates need most at the moment, but it also gives Blackbeard, a big consumer of physical energy, almost unlimited physical energy and the ability to do unlimited sit-ups. Achievable. It can be said that even if he is not dominating now, he can still fight with the strongest Kaido for a month. Moreover, he will definitely win in the end. What's more, he has the destructive power of Shock Fruit. Even if he doesn't need to dominate, Kaido can't stand being bombarded by him. After Munch Munch Fruit awakens, it can be said that Blackbeard has basically no shortcomings. When Haki slowly improves over time, it is only a matter of time before he becomes the strongest in the world. In particular, the awakening of Munch Munch Fruit not only brings these 2 skills, but also raises the upper limit of God Eater to 3/6. This was a complete surprise. It can be regarded as saving Blackbeard 3 traveler time and space scales. With this in mind, Blackbeard couldn't wait to try the ability of Time Devouring. Immediately he left the captain's room directly, soared into the sky and started to use the ability of Time and Space Devouring directly in the air. Time and Space Devour. Hundreds of meters above the sky, purple light exploded all over Blackbeard, and then turned into countless purple threads in a circular shape and shot out in all directions. It did not stop until it reached the 100 kilometers limit of Blackbeard's perception of sight, sound and color. Then these purple threads instantly locked the surrounding space including the Sphinx Island below. As if half of it was copied, a parallel space was constructed between the surrounding time and space and another time and space in an instant. Soon, in Blackbeard's conscious perception, he was able to realize that he had mastered a time and space with a diameter of 100 kilometers and an island exactly like the Sphinx. The flow rate of time and space here is also the same as the feedback given by Munch Munch Fruit after awakening. 1 hour. That is, if Blackbeard stays in this devouring time and space for 24 days, the outside will be equivalent to the past 1 day. After learning this information, Blackbeard looked happy and immediately began to conduct experiments. Buzz. Driven by his thoughts, a purple circular doorway appeared in the space in front of him, and opposite the doorway was another space. Blackbeard's consciousness can feel that this space and himself are closely connected. After several trials, Blackbeard finally determined that everything in this space-time acceleration space was as he imagined. Soon, Blackbeard had new inspiration. Since this time-devouring ability can accelerate time, what about time deceleration and time freezing? Thinking of this, Blackbeard tried again. Sure enough, as he thought, among the 2 spaces he constructed again, one of the time flow speeds was set by him as the time freeze space. This space can be used as a space storage, and things thrown in will always be frozen that moment. Living animals cannot be placed in this space. The other is the time regression space. In this space, the maximum ratio of time regress is 1 hour to 1 day. Staying there for 1 hour is equivalent to 1 day having passed outside. It's just that this time backwards space is not used very much. Moreover, maintaining it will continue to consume his own physical energy. Although the consumption is not large, if the outflow is not large, Blackbeard can directly cancel this space with a thought. Therefore, Blackbeard retains the training space of time acceleration and the storage space of time freezing. After nodding with satisfaction, Blackbeard began to use Energy Devour again. The previous series of experiments with the various possibilities of the time and space devouring skill caused Blackbeard to consume a lot of physical strength, and now this energy devouring is just in use. With a thought, Blackbeard used Calendar. BBFD energy swallowing. The next moment, a thin layer of purple energy mist appeared around Blackbeard's body, like a layer of purple gauze. Su. After the purple mist appeared, Blackbeard could clearly feel the flow of energy between heaven and earth, and some of the mysterious energy was inhaled into his body through the Munch Fruits ability. Then, most of the physical energy he had consumed due to ability training was fully recovered in only 10 seconds. Ha. Above the sky, Blackbeard felt the changes in his body and immediately laughed to the sky. The ability of this Munch Fruit after awakening was even more powerful than he imagined. The ability to consume minerals and produce special metals is no longer under Blackbeard's consideration for development. As long as he has these 3 abilities, even if there are 3 more Kaidos, he can fight them for a whole month. This ability is so awesome. You can do unlimited sit-ups. Who can withstand this? Blackbeard is now looking forward to the battle in a month's time. If the Golden Lion doesn't come, that's it. If it does come, he will beat the shit out of the Golden Lion. Of course, it's not that Golden Lion is weak. In the previous meeting, Blackbeard could still feel the terrifying energy of the Golden Lion physical owner, as well as the haki that was overflowing in a subtle way. Although the current Golden Lion is not as powerful as the one who could compete with Whitebeard and Roger at his peak, the strength of the Marine Admiral is definitely there. If he really had the strength of the Golden Lion in the theater version that he remembered in his previous life, he wouldn't even need to take action at all. Even a Carmen can easily kill him with gas fruit. After all, even Haki couldn't use the Golden Lion in the previous movie version. Is it possible? It can only be said that Golden Lion suffered a loss because it came out too early. As far as King Luffy is at the level of the strongest in the world, he is still far behind. After being satisfied with the experiment, Blackbeard returned to the Ark's Proverbs and was ready to start shaking people. But when he saw 3 women, Nami, Robin, and Carmen, lying leisurely under a sun umbrella, reading a book, and drinking juice, the corner of his mouth twitched involuntarily. These 3 women were quite leisurely. After seeing him flying down from the sky, they all waved to him, and then continued eating and drinking. Okay, now take the time to eat and drink well. Let's see how lousy trains you in the remaining month. Thinking of this, Blackbeard's eyes suddenly lit up. He thought of the phone bug given to him by the Empress's sister Marigold when he was retreating from the Summit War. Maybe we can add an Empress to the game by then. But let's wait and see when the time comes. Thinking about this, he came to the entertainment room on the top floor of Ark Proverbs, walked to the place where the phone bugs were stored, found one of the phone bugs and dialed it. Click. Soon, the phone was connected, and Morgan's excited voice came from inside. Quack, my old friend, is there any big news again? Yes, there is, but not now, but a month later. I will talk to you about this later. Blackbeard can't laugh or cry. This guy wants to make big news every day. Have you found the sleepy ancient town I asked you to help find before? Quack quack quack. Hearing this, Morgan said proudly. Of course, you are in the Sphinx, right? If there is an accident, you should be able to receive the permanent pointer brought to you by the newspaper gull immediately. Okay, thank you very much. Blackbeard suddenly smiled. He didn't expect Morgans to be so efficient. I'm an old friend, and you're still polite to me. Just remember to find me if you have any big news. Morgans never forgets his original intention. Chaka. Shortly after hanging up the phone, Blackbeard came to the Proverbs deck. Sure enough, a newspaper gull soon delivered a permanent pointer to his hand. Blackbeard smiled when he saw this and directly rewarded it with a Bailey. Seeing so much money, the paper gull flew away happily. Nami's sharp eyes in the distance immediately saw the permanent pointer in Blackbeard's hand, and said in surprise. Teach, is this? Call out. I'm going out and I'll be back soon. Blackbeard's voice still echoed in place, and his body had already risen into the sky. Sleeping ancient town, here I come. Chapter 91. Sphinx, I'm back. Blackbeard just flew out not far, then turned around and rushed back. He didn't know how long it would take him to sleep in the ancient town, so he couldn't waste the time in between. Hey, why are you back again? Nami put down her book again and greeted Blackbeard. Of course I'm coming back to give you a surprise. Blackbeard laughed, ignored Nami, and began to gather the people. He almost forgot that his ability was completely portable. When you go by yourself, you can also take them with you. Thinking of this, Blackbeard was even more satisfied. Soon, under the notice of Blackbeard, everyone in the black group immediately gathered. After a while, Marco, Saki, Jose and Beasta also brought other captains and the 40 captains to Sphinx. On the edge of Sri Lanka port. Looking at Blackbeard standing on the Ark's motto, Marco and others were puzzled. Teach, why are you calling us here in such a hurry? Did the enemy invade? It shouldn't be the case, Marco and the others didn't have any warning. It's hard to say, we are being watched eagerly now, and it is not impossible for someone to invade at this time. Standing on the bow of the Ark's proverbs, Blackbeard raised his hand and pressed down, suppressing the doubtful voices around him. He smiled and said, I am now going to take you to a very nice place, where you can spend a whole day and only spend an hour outside. That place is undoubtedly the best place for us to practice right now. Of course, it is not mandatory for you to enter. It's also because my partners still need time to practice and grow, and I just happen to be able to provide such a place. If you want to go, prepare your equipment now. Quote. Buzz. While speaking, Blackbeard raised his hand and a purple light exploded. The next moment, a huge purple halo gate with a height of 20 meters appeared on the dock of the port. Wow, everyone in Baituan was completely shocked when they saw this scene. Hiss, is there such a place? A day outside is not 24 days inside. What a fool. Look, why does this place inside look so familiar to me? Nonsense, how can this be unfamiliar? Isn't it the Sphinx's pier? Hey, why does it look so familiar? Why don't you go in and take a look? I have to say, this is really a good place for practicing, but Lousy is too old to practice. Seeing a lot of people talking, even the members of the black group looked at Blackbeard in shock. Blackbeard turned around and smiled at the black group behind him. How do you feel about the abilities that Munch Fruit masters after awakening? It's not bad, everyone. Now the training location has been settled. After a while, we will directly open the Ark Proverbs into this space. That way the material reserves will be sufficient for the time being. Quote. After hearing Blackbeard's words, Robin's beautiful eyes shone and she said, Hey, do you really have this ability? Isn't this amazing? The flow of time is 124. If you stay there for 30 days, wouldn't it be 2 years? Enel's eyes lit up and he said, I am now one step away from awakening the fruit, these 2 years are enough. Ha 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 ha, 2 years is enough for me to take another step forward. Badgers also laughed. Fanoka pushed up his glasses and said, I just got the Momo fruit not long ago, and many abilities need time to develop, so now is the time. Blackbeard is still very satisfied with his partner's performance. After hearing about the existence of this space, the first thing they thought of was cultivation. It is probably due to involution. After the black group made a decision, it was still noisy down below. Blackbeard didn't say much. He directly raised his hand and waved, causing the purple aperture to expand dozens of times in an instant, and then drove the Ark's proverbs into it. After everyone who was still noisy saw Blackbeard sailing all his ships in, many pirates who wanted to make progress went back to prepare things. After a while, dozens of people entered this time accelerating space. There are actually only half of the people left in the Sphinx. Most of these people are the pirate captains of the large ship group who don't like to be restrained. Regarding these people's choices, Blackbeard didn't say anything. He just nodded at them and closed the space. Then he rose directly into the sky and headed towards sleeping ancient town. At the same time, everyone who entered the time acceleration space began to look around in surprise. Despite Blackbeard's previous explanation, they were still extremely curious. Replicate an island like the Sphinx. After some inspection, these people found that except that there was no living person, everything in the house was exactly the same as the Sphinx in reality. Moreover, outside the Sphinx, they also saw a large frozen scene. This expanded the land area of this space dozens of times. It's obviously Blackbeard's work. The island of Sphinx still needs to stay for more than a year. How can it be destroyed just because of cultivation? Therefore, he directly froze the sea and created a larger space for sparring. Moreover, he also has additional welfare rewards for everyone who enters the time acceleration space training. With this in mind, Blackbeard, who was flying, sank his consciousness into the time acceleration space and then immediately contacted Bluno, who was curiously looking around to fight the Emperor. Bluno, it's me. Hey, Captain, where are you? Why can't I see you? Bluno was very surprised. When other people heard Bluno's words, they all looked around and used their sense of smell to explore. At this time, Shiryu's expression suddenly changed, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Teach, you must have eaten a transparent fruit." Hearing this, Blackbeard still spoke, and Absalom, who was standing next to Moria, immediately raised his hand to express that it was impossible. "Don't talk nonsense. Hey, I am the one with the transparent fruit ability." Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard's laughter rang in their ears. "Don't look, I'm not in this space. But since this space was created by me, I can communicate with you directly through my thoughts. Without further ado, Bluno, can you do what I told you before here? Try using the ability." Quote. Upon hearing this, Bluno immediately understood Blackbeard's words. He immediately raised his hand and patted the space, locking the island he had been to in his mind. Crunch. Soon, the door fruit ability came into effect, and a huge air door appeared in the space in front. The moment the air door opened, a smell of food that made people feel invigorated floated into the time acceleration space, which made everyone in Marco who was still looking around run over curiously. Opposite the door is of course the legendary gourmet paradise, Boeing Islands. Smell good. What's the smell? Where did it come from? It's so fragrant. I obviously just ate it not long ago for lunch. Wow, my mouth is drooling. The door to space. Is it Bluno? By the way, Bluno, where is the door opposite this door? Opposite the door are the Boeing Islands. Quote. Hey, that legendary food paradise. After hearing Bluno's words, everyone exclaimed. Among them, the most excited ones were Carmen and Saki. Both of them are chefs, so naturally they have heard of this place. At this time, Blackbeard's laughter sounded in the space. Thief, ha 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 ha. Carmen, I have fulfilled my first agreement with you. Let's introduce you to Grand Line's delicious food and ingredients. And the food in this Boeing Islands is similar to the tonic cuisine of the Shemale Kingdom that I once told you. As long as you eat it, you can slightly enhance your physical fitness. Here are the cultivation benefits I have prepared for everyone. Starting from today, everyone can practice and compete without any worries. The medical team is headed by Toxic Q and Marco, and they can quickly revive you as long as you are alive. As for post-workout food, go straight to the Boeing Islands. After the supplement is completed, continue to practice. By repeating this, I believe that after more than a year of leaving this space, you will be able to leave those former friends who have not come in far behind. Oh. After hearing Blackbeard's words, nearly 100 people present cheered excitedly. Originally, they thought that entering this space would be a boring practice, but in order to become stronger and not to become cannon fodder in the future, these people still chose to come in and endure hardship. However, they did not expect that before they could taste the bitterness, they would enjoy one of the most delicious delicacies in the world. And, you can still eat it every day. There are also two top medical experts in the practice, Poison Q and Marco. This is not a hardship. This is obviously a training place with top-notch resources. Even the resource treatment of celestial dragons is probably just like this, right? After feeling the excitement of everyone, Blackbeard said with an evil smile. As long as you are satisfied, I will go do something first. When the matter is over, I will come back to practice with you. You should hurry up and practice, if you don't want to be beaten too badly by me. Thief, ha 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 ha. After hearing this, everyone suddenly trembled. Blackbeard's current strength is obvious to all. Summit War defeats 2 Marine admirals. He is also the only owner of the 3 fruit ability in the world. If you fight with this kind of monster, you will get beaten badly, right? But those who can get in here are determined to change. They know that being beaten by such a master is a blessing. Maybe after being punched 3 times, you will be enlightened directly. Just as everyone in the time acceleration space went to the Boeing Island's cafeteria to eat, Blackbeard also accelerated towards Sleeping Ancient Town. 3 days later, Sleeping Ancient Town, in a certain underground ruins. Blackbeard tossed the 2 devil fruits in his hands and couldn't help but smile. It is indeed here. I have to say that listening to the sounds of all things is really convenient for finding devil fruit. Isn't this the correct way to listen to the sounds of all things? I originally wanted to find the bat fruit, but I unexpectedly found another phantom beast species. If you guessed correctly, this one should also be a devil fruit in the framework of the One Piece world. Having memorized the complete devil fruit illustrated book of celestial dragons, he recognized this devil fruit at a glance. Zone dog fruit phantom beast species change into raccoon form. This phantom beast is a devil fruit that appeared together with Redfield in the previous life. Was eaten by a guy named Pa Dong. Blackbeard couldn't remember whether it was the civet cat that ate the devil fruit, or whether a person ate the devil fruit and turned into a civet cat. But no matter what, he will not eat this devil fruit. He didn't even need to eat the vampire fruit. After all, he already has the ability of a fantasy beast species. Of course, the most important thing is that he can't pass the test of sucking human blood. It's okay to kill people, but not to eat people. Maybe Redfield doesn't have this concern, but he can't accept Blackbeard, even if it's just blood-sucking. As for the issue of immortality, as a person with a heaven-defying cheat like the Traveler's Clock, he feels that there will always be a way. Moreover, after eating 5 devil fruits, Blackbeard could keenly feel that his body had been undergoing subtle changes. Now even if he doesn't exercise, he can feel that he is getting stronger little by little. This feeling is very subtle. If his knowledge had not reached the highest level of listening to the sounds of all things, he would not have noticed the changes in his body. But thinking about Blackbeard made me feel relieved. It can be said that each of the 5 devil fruit abilities he has mastered can completely transform a person. Even if he only needs to eat a devil fruit in his hand, he can already be said to be a different species from ordinary people. And of these fruits, Blackbeard ate 5. Is it normal for the body to undergo some kind of evolution unconsciously? To what extent his physical strength has reached now, Blackbeard has never felt anything greater. After all, he hasn't fought against the top powerhouse yet. But what he knows is that his physical strength under normal conditions is equivalent to Badger's physical strength after using armed colors. This is terrible. You know, his phantom beast ability has not yet been awakened. There are really too many scales and it is impossible to use them. Therefore, Blackbeard decided to use time to accelerate space for more than a year to complete control of Conqueror's entanglement. In this case, he can save 3 cumulative ticks. The next time the Traveler's Clock completes the accumulation of the 3 ticks, he will use it to awaken his Zone Cat Fruit Phantom Beast species Frostwing White Tiger form. As for Shock Fruit's ability, it's not necessary for the time being. With his current physical fitness, coupled with Shock Fruit's destructive power, he is fully capable of outputting firepower. What's more, he also used the swordsmanship experience in the 7-star sword to reach the level of a great swordsman, and his attack power is also terrifying. As long as he masters Conqueror's entanglement, the power of his 3 killing moves of the demon sword will be upgraded to another level. If he could reach that point during the Summit War, what he cut off was not one of Akainu's arms, but his entire body diagonally split in half. However, Blackbeard is not in a hurry. This day is coming soon. The most urgent thing is to shake people off first. Brew brew brew. Sitting in the ruins of Sleepy Town, Blackbeard made a phone call. Soon, an old voice sounded from the opposite side. Teach, if you don't integrate your Whitebeard pirate group at this time, why are you looking for me? Don't tell me you want me to join the Whitebeard pirates. I am already a little tired of life on the sea. I am too lazy to participate in the fights of you brats. Blackbeard interrupted Redfield directly. I have a devil fruit in my hand. Its name is Zone Bat Fruit Phantom Beast species Vampire form. After 2 seconds of silence on the other side of the phone, Redfield's decisive voice came. Where, I admit I just spoke a little too loudly. However, I also have a condition, that is, I agree to join your Blackbeard pirates, and the Whitebeard pirates will definitely not be able to. Redfield spoke decisively. Tell me your address and I'll pick you up. Blackbeard smiled. Demo, I still can't control you. Sabayati Archipelago. Redfield spoke immediately. Blackbeard was startled when he heard this, and then suddenly realized. Ah, why did you go there? Oh, by the way, Rayleigh is over there too. Redfield was surprised. You know that old man Rayleigh has gone into seclusion. Seclusion, Blackbeard sneered. Pluton Rayleigh, One Piece's right-hand man, is living in seclusion in the Sabayati Archipelago. Is it possible? He just puts himself in the eyes of the world government and tells them that he is just an old man who poses no threat and does not want to make big news. So it's not worth spending a lot of money to catch him. Not to mention, Sabayati Archipelago, what an important place. It is a critical place for both world government and celestial dragons. If we really go to war with Pluton Rayleigh in that place, we have to be prepared to be buried with the Sabayati Archipelago. That old boy is smart. Quote, Redfield. At this moment, Blackbeard did not hear Redfield's words, but heard a burst of hearty laughter from the other side of the phone. Ha 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 ha. Teach, I didn't expect you to see through my little thoughts. It's amazing. You were still such a little kid back then, but now you have inherited the position of Whitebeard. Are you interested in having a drink at Sabayati Archipelago? Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard laughed and said, I am honored to be invited by Pluton Rayleigh. 3 days later. Night. Sabayati Archipelago, Shaki Rip-Off Bar. Crunch. As the door of the bar that had been closed for the past 7 days was pushed open, several people in the room turned their heads and looked over at the same time. After entering the bar, Blackbeard was also a little surprised. Because there were many people standing in the room at this time. As the owner of this bar and the former emperor of the Daughter Kingdom, Shaki was holding a cigarette in his mouth, pinching his waist and looking at him sideways. The 2 people sitting in front of the bar were Pluton Rayleigh, who had white hair and glasses, and the old man next to him, who also had white hair but wore a dark red suit and had a gloomy face, aloof red. There were 4 people sitting on the sofa in the back. One is the pirate empress whom I haven't seen for a long time, Boa Hancock. The other 2 are her sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold. Sitting next to them was a dwarf old woman holding a snake-head crutch, the former emperor of the Daughter Kingdom, Huo-Wa, who was once one of the cadres of Rock's pirate. After seeing the situation in the bar, Blackbeard chuckled and said, Tisk, I didn't expect to be able to meet the 3rd emperor of my daughter's country in this small bar. It is really an honor for me. Ah, sir. After seeing Blackbeard, the pirate empress Boa Hancock, who was sitting aside with a proud and cool face, immediately covered her mouth and stood up in shock. Master Teach, Shiji, do you know what you are talking about? Pay attention to yourself. Old woman, get out of here. After hearing Hancock's words, the 2 sisters also looked at their elder sister in surprise. The mother-in-law on the other side immediately scolded her, but before she could finish her words, she was kicked by Hancock and flew to the wall on the other side. Oh, Hancock, long time no see. Blackbeard showed a warm smile and said, Marine and the world government haven't given you any trouble lately, have they? Ah, Master Teach, do you care about me? Does he want to marry me? Hancock's face was flushed, and he covered his red cheeks with his fair and slender palms. He peeked at Blackbeard's reaction carefully with 2 slits exposed between his fingers, and then immediately shook his head and said, Ah, that one doesn't, none. Sandersonia and Marigold next to them were stunned again, thinking that something was wrong with their sister's reaction. It's over, another one has been hit. Mother-in-law Yi, who had just buckled herself off the wall, grumbled and climbed onto the high stool next to Rayleigh. She pulled the long table that blocked half of her head with both hands and said, No, Shaki, give me a glass of wine quickly, I want to calm down. Hey, you guys, no one is worried. Quote, when Blackbeard saw that the seat was occupied, he didn't take it seriously. He walked to the bar, picked up a bottle of wine, opened the cap, and took a swig of it. Then he breathed out a comfortable smile and said, I've been flying for 3 days and I'm almost exhausted. It's really annoying, flying from the second half of New World to here. Here, Beloric, here's what you want. Quote, as he spoke, Blackbeard took out a devil fruit with green vines and purple skin from the pocket of the captain's coat and threw it towards the lonely Red. The aloof Red originally had a cold face, but his eyes were filled with joy after seeing the devil fruit. He immediately caught it in a hurry, and then said with trembling lips, "Teach, you guy, you actually got it. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that. What I have been looking for most of my life, I got it when I was 70 or 80 years old. It seems that I am really destined to it. Ha 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 ha." Seeing this aloof Red being so rude, the Hancock sisters, Grandma Yi, Shaky, and even Rayleigh who first met them were dumbfounded with astonishment on their faces. After a while, Rayleigh looked at Blackbeard in surprise and said, "Teach, what kind of devil fruit is this? It makes this old guy so excited." Click 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 click. Blackbeard hasn't spoken yet, but Gu Gaohong can't wait to eat the bad fruit in one gulp. This old guy is so ruthless, he didn't even waste the vines and just choked him. Not even a hint of discomfort showed. But think about it, how could a guy who was imprisoned in a place like LV6 Eternal Hell, a deep-sea prison, be given such an unpalatable taste by devil fruit? Before Blackbeard could continue to sigh, Redfield immediately grabbed his neck and shouted in pain. "It tastes so bad, eh?" Everyone in the bar couldn't help but exclaimed, and then shouted in unison. "Your reaction is too slow." Just when everyone was dumbfounded, a dark red mist suddenly began to appear around Redfield. Seeing this scene, Blackbeard was not surprised but smiled and said, "How about it? Do you have any more interesting abilities? Except for the ability to live forever by sucking human blood." When everyone in the bar heard this, they immediately exclaimed again. "Eternal life. Hey, even though I'm old, I'm not deaf." "Did you just say eternal life? Teach." "Ha ha ha ha, you heard me right. I think Redfield will let you see this ability in a while." "Impossible, absolutely impossible. How can such a thing as eternal life be possible? If it is possible, then this devil fruit is simply..." Just when everyone was amazed, Redfield's whole body also completely changed. His hair and the upper part of his cheeks have turned purple-black, and pointed and slender civilian ears have grown on both sides. At the same time, two pointed and slender fangs also grew out of its mouth. Tisk! The clothes were torn as a result, and a huge black figure burst out of the clothes from behind. The entire lower body of the person was shrouded in dark red mist, looking extremely evil. Ha 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 ha. As expected, it's the bat fruit, phantom beast species, and vampire form. This feeling of youth is great. Can I be so young just by using my abilities? Redfield was excited. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Blackbeard looked at his appearance and smiled. "The way you look now, you look like a naturally evil villain." "Oh, are you a legendary sky pirate? That's okay." Quote. Everyone also smiled. Redfield smiled evilly and said, "Teach, I will accept your fruit. I am also a man of his word. From today on, I will join your Blackbeard pirate group. I have to say, this ability is simply amazing. Strengthen your body, fly, and control your own blood and the blood of others. If my opponent is cut by me during the battle, or his skin is scratched and bleeding, I can accelerate the opponent's bleeding amount. If I had this ability during the Summit War, I could kill tens of thousands of injured Marines in an instant with just one thought. There's no way a Kainu can escape. I probably know this much about this bat fruit at the moment, and I may be able to develop something useful in the future." Quote. Everyone couldn't help but take a breath of Mangrove Eve's delicious air when they heard this. Blackbeard said thoughtfully, "Your ability to control your own blood and the blood of others is not like controlling only blood. Sounds more like controlling liquids. If you develop deeper, you can control all liquids, which is equivalent to being able to use seawater to fight. This ability is simply another kind of nemesis for most ability users. Similar to how Golden Lion fruit can control seawater battles. Even after the ability is strengthened, even the weather can be controlled. After all, clouds and rain are made of liquid. Tisk, 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 it is indeed a phantom beast species, and its abilities and prospects are very good." Quote. After hearing Blackbeard's analysis, Redfield's eyes became brighter and brighter, and then he laughed and said, "Ha ha ha ha, it's you as expected, Teach. No wonder you can compete with a Kainu's lava fruit as soon as you get the Mara fruit. You guys have very unique insights into the development and expansion of fruit abilities. It seems that I can discuss the fruit development with you more in the future. Quote. Thief ha 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 ha. Blackbeard also laughed and said. Who do you think labor and management are? Okay, now go and make yourself young again. The next step is to see if you can overcome that nauseating feeling. This is the Sabayati archipelago. Find any slave trader and let's see how young you can be. Okay, I have exactly what I mean. Hearing this, Redfield excitedly spread his bat wings and disappeared from the spot, leaving only a dark red surging mist. Seeing this scene, Rayleigh pinched her chin and said, Look, this old guy still hasn't told us all his abilities. Haha, what you said, Lao Lei, who would completely reveal his trump card. Shaki held a cigarette between his slender fingers, blew out a smoke ring from his mouth and said with a smile. But this Teach guy actually surprised me by knowing so much about this devil fruit. Since you know this devil fruit so well, you should know its powerful and strange abilities. This type of phantom beast, which is rarer than Logia, are you just giving it away to others? Don't you feel bad? Hancock and others also looked at Blackbeard curiously after hearing this. Send it to someone else. Blackbeard laughed. No, 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 Redfield is none other than him, he is now a member of my Blackbeard pirates. What does a mere phantom beast mean? Ms. Shaki, you may not know that there are already several phantom beasts in our Blackbeard pirates. Hiss. Everyone gasped again for the delicious air produced by Mangrove Adam, and even Rayleigh was so shocked that he broke several of his beards. Hey, Teach, what you said, do you think the phantom beasts are just cabbages? Rayleigh couldn't laugh or cry. Thief ha 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 ha. Blackbeard's eyes flashed. He had a way to earn Rayleigh's help in teaching hockey, and he immediately said with an evil smile. If you don't believe it, I can take you to meet my crew members later. I'll hold a banquet for you by the way. Rayleigh, that's the heavenly food from the Boeing Islands, haven't you eaten it in a long time? Hiss. Hearing this, Rayleigh took a deep breath and his eyes brightened a bit. He seemed to think of some kind of delicious food. He subconsciously swallowed and said in shock. Did you actually find the Boeing Islands? That is a mobile island that has always been on the Grand Line, and this island seems to know how to avoid humans. No one has found that place in decades. It's really amazing, Brother Teach. Shaki was also amazed when he heard this. On the other hand, Hancock looked confused and said, Zhao from Nuo. Is this Boeing Islands a place where gourmet food is produced? Are there very good chefs there? Hey, you'll find out later when you go. Blackbeard sold it out. Rayleigh was very surprised and said, Can you go in a while? What kind of weird devil fruit can do this? Grandma Yi on the side thought thoughtfully. Shaki tilted his head and thought for a moment before saying, If my guess is correct, Brother Teach, among the currently known information in your Blackbeard pirates, the one who is most likely to be able to do this is the former member of CP9 who has mastered the gate fruit, Bluno. Quote. Blackbeard gave a thumbs up after hearing this and said, As expected of Boss Shaki, his intelligence analysis skills are impressive. Call. At this moment, a strong wind blew open the door of the bar, and then a figure appeared in front of everyone. When they saw this figure, everyone suddenly looked shocked. Monkey D. Sweat King. When he saw the visitor, Blackbeard couldn't help being shocked, and then he couldn't help but chuckled. What a coincidence, Zogwo met a man like you here. Ha 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 ha. After Rayleigh was stunned for a moment, she laughed out loud and said, Today is really interesting. Shaki narrowed his eyes slightly. I didn't expect that so many big names could gather in my small shop at the same time today. It's really brilliant. Hearing this, the visitor raised his hand to open his own amplification device and said with a smile. I was also passing by the Sabayati archipelago, and I sensed that there was such a powerful aura here, so I stopped by to take a look. I didn't expect to be able to meet so many great people. It's really an honor for me. Quote. Sandersonia, Marigold, and Granny Yi couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw the face under the hood. Leader of the Revolutionary Army Long. Hancock's pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. To a certain extent, this man is bigger than her master Teach. The only man in the world today who dares to conflict head-on with the world government. The leader of the Revolutionary Army. It's really interesting that such a man would appear here. After hearing what Long said, Shaki stood up, got him a bottle of rum, and then chuckled. I wonder if the leader of the Revolutionary Army patronizes my little shop. Does he have any instructions? Ha ha, Boss Shacky is joking. Long took the wine, pushed away the coldness of the wine, took a sip and said with a smile. I was originally just curious about the gathering of so many masters here, and wanted to come over and see if I could recruit a few to join the Revolutionary Army. I never expected to meet big shots like you. But the dragon turned to look at Blackbeard and smiled. I've heard about you, Mr. Teach, so I'm a little curious and want to come down and meet you. Did the bear tell you that? Blackbeard didn't give King Sweat a chance to play tricks and directly exposed his background. Hearing this, Long's hand holding the wine bottle paused. He looked at Blackbeard in surprise and said, Mr. Teach, how did you know? I know a lot of things. Blackbeard laughed and said, some people's eyes are destined to see the past and the future, aren't they? Riddler, who can't? Do I have to tell you the plot of my past life even though I know it? But the arrival of this dragon is a good opportunity. At least he is a powerful emperor. Conqueror's entanglement currently has Rayleigh and Redfield. Now it would be great if he could earn another dragon into the time acceleration space to train with him. Can you see the past and the future? Long raised his eyebrows and said. Then may I ask, sir, do you see the future of the Revolutionary Army? Destined to fail. Blackbeard spoke decisively and firmly. What? Long's pupils shrank, and a powerful conqueror suddenly burst out from his body, but he restrained it in an instant, and then his expression quickly returned to calmness and said, sorry, I was rude. Although not all of Long's conquerors exploded, his skillful control of Conqueror's haki shocked everyone present. Can even Conqueror's haki be able to retract it freely? This is something even that Guy Garp can't do. Rayleigh sighed. It's really better than the old. Mother-in-law Yi and the Hancock sisters were shocked again. They heard some incredible secret again. Will he be killed and silenced? Can such a secret be disclosed casually? Compared to their shock, Long shook his head and smiled. It's just that their choices are different. When my father didn't choose to become a Marine Admiral or a Marshal, he was destined to never reach this level. If he had chosen that path, his conquerors might be scarier than mine is now. But what I'm more curious about now is why Mr. Teach is so dismissive of our Revolutionary Army. Quote. Hearing this, Blackbeard's heart moved. It's coming, the meaty drama that I prepared for is finally here. At this moment, he noticed something and immediately smiled. Don't worry, why don't we wait for my partner, BBFF, to come back and we can continue chatting in another place. Oh, Long was a little confused. Hula, crunch. A few seconds later, a burst of dark red mist pushed the bar door open again. Immediately, under the surprised eyes of everyone, a man wearing a dark red suit, with white hair and 2 braids hanging on his chest, holding a crutch sword, looked like a young man in his 20s. Appear in the bar. Hiss. After seeing Redfield in this state, everyone couldn't help but gasp again. Hey, are you kidding me? Don't tell me you are Balearic. Isn't this a bit outrageous? Can that ability reach such an exaggerated level? No wonder you've been looking for it for most of your life, Balearic. Incredible. After seeing everyone's expressions, Gugao Zihong suddenly laughed happily. Apparently he was pleased with the reaction. Even he himself was frightened when he saw his own appearance. It took him a while to come back to his senses. It was not in vain that he had been searching for this fruit for most of his life. Thinking of this, Redfield gratefully bowed to Blackbeard and said, Teach, although you have conditions, I still have to express my gratitude to you. Snapped. Blackbeard, in Long's shock, hugged Redfield and laughed. Thief, ha 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 ha, we are all partners, so there is nothing we can thank you for. I'm very happy today. Come on, everyone, I'll take you to a place to have a banquet. As he spoke, everyone watched Blackbeard raise his hand and wave. In an instant, purple light exploded. Sizzling. Immediately, under the shocked eyes of everyone, a space door with a purple round frame appeared in front of everyone. They subconsciously looked up, and the scene inside made them feel stunned and shocked. After a few seconds of silence, He Jingdiang said, This place is... The Sphinx. Teach, have you actually mastered the ability of space? Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard laughed and said, Come on, guys, let me show you the secret base of our Blackbeard pirates. While speaking, Blackbeard put his arm around Redfield's shoulders and walked in first. Upon seeing this, Rayleigh and Shacky looked at each other and walked in with great interest. Hancock and the others immediately followed. Zilla. After everyone entered it, the door to space slowly closed. Blackbeard, who was walking in front, raised the corners of his mouth. Successfully earned 3 sparring partners who have mastered Conqueror's Entangle. Now that I'm here, I want to leave easily. Blackbeard and his party had just entered the Sphinx's dock when they were noticed by the white pirates who were eating here. Because the usual training location is on the sea ice outside the Sphinx Island, the pier has become a place for these guys to rest on weekdays. Now seeing Blackbeard back, all the pirates smiled, but soon they exclaimed in surprise. Oh, the captain is back. Hey, who is that? The pirate empress, Boa Hancock. Why did she come back with the captain? Sure enough, with the captain's charisma, even the pirate queen is willing to be defeated. Ha 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 ha. No, you only have eyes for beauties, right? Don't you know the old man walking at the front? Old man, where is the old man? I am Sao, Pluton Rayleigh. Wait a minute, why does the guy in the captain's arms look more and more familiar? Hey, isn't that Gu Gao Ji Hong? Why has he become so young? I'm so stupid. All the pirates screamed in surprise at this time, and then a group of people gathered around. Marco and others who were sparring in the distance also noticed Blackbeard's aura, so they all stopped practicing and came back. Tisk. Enel was the fastest, and with a flash of electric arc, he came to Blackbeard's side and said loudly on purpose. Captain, are you really going to do something these days? Why did you bring back another beautiful woman? Blackbeard twitched the corner of his mouth and glared at Enel, saying to himself, you will be rewarded later. Sure enough, just after Enel finished speaking, a sound of flapping wings sounded from the sky. Blackbeard looked up and saw Robin, wearing a white half-waist jacket, white tight shorts and white boots, landing from the sky with wings transformed from flower fruit. Then he covered his mouth and chuckled. Hey, our Captain Teach has brought back another beautiful woman. I wonder how Princess Vivi will feel when she finds out about it. When are you going to go back to Alabasta to see her? Huh, Princess Vivi, what Princess Vivi? Hancock frowned, realizing that the matter was not simple. A woman's intuition alerted her, and she immediately stepped forward, and 4 large white buns were pushed directly against each other. The Eye family is the queen of 9 snakes, and she wants to marry Lord Teach. Ah, I accidentally let it slip. After saying that, he immediately raised his hands to cover his face shyly. Wow, as soon as Hancock said this, there was a burst of screaming and booing around him. Blackbeard was stunned. No, when are we going to get married? Although it's not impossible, isn't it a bit uncomfortable to say it in such a public way? What does this make me do? You are all my wings. Especially when he saw Nami in the distance standing with Khalifa, who was wearing a white suit skirt, white lace high heels, and 9 tails growing out of her back, he felt that his head suddenly got bigger. As for which head it was, he wouldn't say. Cough cough cough, underscore. Feeling that something was wrong in the atmosphere, Blackbeard quickly took control of the situation, pushed away Redfield who was holding him, and instantly came between Hancock and Robin, held their shoulders and smiled. Let's not talk about Vivi and marriage for now, let's welcome our new friends first. Come on, let me introduce it to you all. First up is our new partner in the Blackbeard Pirates, the legendary pirate Baloric Redfield, the Alone Red. Quote. Ye. The crew members of the Blackbeard Pirates and the pirates present were shocked when they heard this, and then cheered along with Blackbeard. Afterwards, Blackbeard introduced Rayleigh and the Empress, whom everyone was already familiar with, and then led them to the Ark's Proverbs parked aside. Then he called Bluno and the others and asked him to open the space door of the Boeing Islands and bring out a lot of unasked food and drinks. After another wave of whoring in the Boeing Islands, the door was closed. The cadres of the Black Group, as well as Captains Marco, Saki, Josie and Bista, also came to the top-floor entertainment hall of Ark Proverbs at this time. After sitting down and everyone eating and drinking for a while, Long saw that Blackbeard seemed to have forgotten what happened before, so he mentioned it again. Mr. Teach, you haven't told me why you were so negative about the Revolutionary Army before coming. When Blackbeard heard this, the corner of his mouth curled up and he said, Before we talk about this topic, I want to ask you a question, Mr. Long. Please say. Long sat upright and raised his hand to make a gesture of invitation. Others heard the conversation between the two and looked over. But they didn't stop eating. The food in the Boeing Islands was so delicious. I would like to know why your Revolutionary Army did not carry out rescue operations in time after Ginny, the commander of your Eastern Army Corps, was captured, which ultimately led to Bartholomew Kuma becoming a clown. Blackbeard stared at the dragon's blunt opening. Long's expression, which was originally calm, suddenly changed and he exclaimed. How do you know this? I told you, Mr. Long, my eyes can see through the past and the future. Blackbeard grinned and said, I really want to know your thoughts at that time. Why did you choose to just sweat and not go to rescue? Long automatically ignored the words about sweating, but looked a little gloomy. His mind at this time was already on Blackbeard's question to him. Seeing this, Blackbeard didn't bother him, but picked up a piece of delicious meat and stuffed it into his mouth. This was the question he had always wanted to torture Long. It can be said that the series of tragedies that followed Big Bear were all caused by the decision-making of the Revolutionary Army. Even though Big Bear has become a clown, Blackbeard still can't see a good guy like him being wronged in vain. Think of it as Big Bear's reward for keeping their affairs at Thriller Bar a secret. Help him give this monkey D. Sweat King a good beating. Everyone else was also extremely curious. Faced with such a sharp question, how should Long answer? After a while, Long sighed and said, at that time, our Revolutionary Army was still very weak. If we really wanted to go to the Holy Land to rescue Ginny, the sacrifice would be too great. I couldn't risk the lives of other soldiers on such a rescue that might not be successful. Just snapped. Well said. Blackbeard snapped his fingers and smiled. That's why I look down on you and the Revolutionary Army. That's why I say that the Revolutionary Army is doomed to fail, and your choice is far worse than Whitebeard. Long was choked by Blackbeard's straightforward words and his face turned red and white. But his capacity was obviously more than that, so he quickly calmed down his emotions. Seeing this, Blackbeard couldn't help but admire Long's courage. He was worthy of being the leader of the Revolutionary Army. It can only be said that he did a poor job in some aspects. It seems the intensity is still not enough. We need to intensify the torture. You may feel dissatisfied, but I want to ask you, do you think that before my father took the Whitebeard pirates to Marineford, did he know that the Whitebeard pirates were far less powerful than Marine? Blackbeard pointed to the people around him and said, do you think the officers of the Whitebeard pirates know that the Whitebeard pirates are not as powerful as the naval headquarters? When Long heard this, he was silent for a few seconds and then shook his head and said, I think there are still many arrogant guys among pirates. But before Long could finish his 5, 6, 7 words, he was interrupted by Chowzi, who shouted in a deep voice. Stop joking, Dorag. We just felt our father's determination and that's why we were willing to follow him to death. Dad is willing to risk everything, even his own life, to save Ace. His moral integrity is worth following us to the death. That's right. Skuyard on the side also grinned and said, how could we not know that even if all of us combined are not as powerful as Marine, Dad is willing to give it a try, so how can we, as his followers, be afraid of just dying? Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard laughed when he heard this and said, well said. We, the Whitebeard pirates, have over 50,000 brothers, and not one of them is a coward. If you don't even have the courage to rescue your comrade and allow the enemy to insult him, this is simply more unacceptable than death. No matter what, at least we need to work hard. Dorag, do you think you have worked hard? When Long heard this, everything that happened 12 years ago flashed through his mind, and cold sweat flowed from his forehead. The King of Sweat lives up to his reputation. But even now, Long still gritted his teeth and insisted on his own ideas. I still think I'm not wrong. If, like you, I had sacrificed so many brothers but failed to save Ginny, wouldn't it have been in vain? What's more, you couldn't save Ace. So what's the point? Even if Ace was not saved, so many people died, and now the Whitebeard pirates have been completely disbanded. Ha 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 ha. Blackbeard interrupted the dragon with a smile. Failed to save Ace. That's not necessarily true. Wow. Hearing this, everyone present was confused and in an uproar. All of them looked at Blackbeard with disbelief, their faces full of confusion. Hart said, didn't all the abilities of Marimara fruit belong to you? Why are you still saying this? Could it mean that Ace is actually living in his body? Hey, Teach, what do you mean? Marco looked at Blackbeard in disbelief. Even Long had forgotten his previous unhappiness and looked at him in astonishment. Seeing everyone watching, Blackbeard grinned and said, "Forget it, now is the time. Poison, clear." Hearing Blackbeard's cry, Poison Q immediately understood. Then everyone saw Poison Q walking to the bar. Under the gaze of dozens of people, he raised his hand and pressed a certain mechanism inside the bar, and then the round shape between Blackbeard and the dragon slowly rose up. Stand up. Tisk tisk. Immediately afterwards, a biting cold air spurted out from below. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a round icicle rose completely, and Ace's body was currently serving as the icicle. Ace. After seeing this scene, everyone subconsciously exclaimed. As a doctor, Marco immediately noticed something was wrong and said in shock, "Ace's wounds have healed." When everyone heard this, they immediately looked down. Sure enough, they discovered that Ace's body, which had been pierced by a kainu before, had returned to its original state. Seeing this scene, many people's pupils shrank suddenly. What's happening here? There was a faint sense of anticipation in their hearts, and their eyes were fixed on Blackbeard. Blackbeard grinned and said, "As you can see, after awakening my dark fruit, I gained a special ability. As long as I have devoured the ability of a person with abilities who have not died, I will suck his soul back from the underworld. And not long ago, I had completely recovered half of Ace's soul." Wow, everyone was shocked when they heard this. Isn't it? Can this kind of thing be done? Isn't that equivalent to being able to resurrect the dead? If that's the case, it's not okay to compare eyebrows. Dad died at the end of his life, okay. His body couldn't hold on any longer. This summit war has completely worn down his body. If it weren't for Poison Q, I'm afraid Dad wouldn't be able to make it back to the Sphinx. But it's still a bit outrageous to ask for such a thing. Long Li ignored the shock of others, but keenly captured Hua Dian. Half, right. Blackbeard pointed at Moria and said, "Maybe you don't know much about it, but I can tell you that the human soul has two halves. Half of it is hidden in the body, and the other half is the shadow under you. But it is mainly dominated by the half of the soul in the body. Because there are no shadows, people can still survive in the darkness without sunlight. Of course, if there is no shadow in the sun, it will simply disappear. Moria knows this very well." Hey. Moria touched her belly and smiled. "The captain is right. If anyone doesn't believe it, I can cut off your shadow and let you stand in the sun for a while and you will know. At that time, the parts of your body that are exposed to the sun will turn into ashes and fly away. But if you let the shadow soul return to your body at this time, the part that turned to ashes will be restored instantly. This is the magic of the soul." Hiss. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp when they heard the words. Although they didn't understand it very well, they felt a numb scalp. I don't know if it's because they need to grow their brains, or if it's just that it's so obscure that it makes their scalps itch. Hula. Just when everyone's scalps were itching, Blackbeard stood up directly and came to Ace, who was frozen. Then with a thought, he sucked the soul from the traveler's space into his hand and let it emerge from the black mist in his hand. Immediately, under the shocked eyes of everyone, he raised his hand and pressed the glowing soul directly into Ace's body among the icicles, and then Blackbeard shouted, "Resurrection, my Ace brother! Resurrection, my Ace brother!" As Blackbeard crushed the icicle with a palm, the icicle that had frozen Ace turned into countless ice cubes and scattered on the ground. Then Blackbeard pressed his palm on Ace's head. Buzz. The next second, the white light ball disappeared into Ace's head. Seeing this, Blackbeard smiled at Enel and said, "Enel, give Ace an electrotherapy treatment to stop this guy from sleeping." Is it really okay?" Enel said so, but out of curiosity, he did not hesitate to give Ace's body, which had been frozen for some time, an electrotherapy treatment. Tisk. The blue electric arc sank directly into Ace's body under everyone's surprised gaze. Tisk tisk tisk. A burst of blue arcs danced across the surface of Ace's body. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, with the beating of the arc, Ace's body also began to beat. Soon, everyone around him who mastered observation hockey keenly heard the sound of Ace's heart starting to beat. After sensing this situation, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Even Long, who had always been calm, now had his eyes almost bulging out. No, brother, is this okay? At this time, everyone present was holding their heads with their hands in disbelief, and a dull look appeared on their faces. For a time, the entire entertainment room on the top floor of Art Proverbs fell into a dead silence. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Ace, as if they didn't want to miss what was happening next. Soon, 10 seconds later, Ace's chest began to rise and fall slowly, and Ace, who had his eyes tightly closed, slowly opened his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him with a blank look on his face. Seeing this, everyone present raised their hands and covered their mouths, as if they were afraid of screaming. Ace, who had just woken up, shuddered and subconsciously said, "So cold, so numb, ha 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 Ace, welcome home." Seeing this scene, Blackbeard finally confirmed that his idea was indeed feasible. When he was watching the Devil's Triangle chapter in his previous life, all the shadows of the Straw Hat crew were taken away by Moria. Originally, their shadows had not returned in time after sunrise. At this time, after their bodies were hit by the sun, their bodies began to gradually turn into ashes. But when their shadows came back, their bodies were restored to their true form. This gave Blackbeard a bold guess. The soul is the most critical element of life in the pirate world. The human body has two halves of soul, one half controls the body, and the other half becomes a shadow. It won't work without either party. With the traveler's clock imprisoning his soul, he came up with the idea of resurrecting Ace. At the Summit War, the situation was too complicated, so I didn't rush. What's more, Ace's body couldn't be repaired that quickly at that time. Now is the right time. Teach. After Ace heard Blackbeard's words, he immediately turned his eyes to Blackbeard, his face full of guilt, and said, "Teach, are you dead too? I'm sorry, it's all me who has caused trouble to everyone, and Dad, how is he?" Hearing Ace's words, Blackbeard hadn't said anything yet. Marco, Josie, Saki, Bista, Skuyard and others had already excitedly rushed forward and hugged Ace tightly, crying excitedly, "Howl!" Ace's face turned even paler after seeing them, and he said in horror, "Marco, Josie, Saki, are you all dead? I really deserve to die. Ha 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 ha." Seeing Ace's painful look, Blackbeard and others laughed even more happily. This made Ace, who was hugged by Marco and the others, look at Blackbeard and his group with confusion and astonishment. At this time, Marco and the others also reacted. After hearing Ace's painful voice, they also cheered with tears and laughter. Why are you laughing?" Ace was confused. "No, you are still smiling so happily even after you were dead." This made his original sad mood somewhat unsustainable. But soon, C discovered something was wrong. He moved his body and found that his body still felt slightly numb, and there were ice blocks under his feet. Then think of the cold feeling on your body. What's the situation now? Ace soon spotted Blackbeard behind Marco and the others, looking like he was watching a show. "What do you think?" Blackbeard shrugged and said, "You don't think all of us are buried with you, do you? Don't be too fanciful, Ace." Ace's body trembled when he heard this. After subconsciously looking around, his eyes quickly locked on a person's figure. Seeing this, he couldn't help but condense his eyes and exclaimed, "Uncle Dorag." Ace. Hearing Ace's call, Dorag's shoehorned face showed a rare smile and said, "The old man will definitely be very happy to see you alive." Ace and Dorag naturally knew each other. Although Luffy was stupid when he was a child, Ace is not stupid. Occasionally I have seen Garp and Dorag come to see Luffy, but Dorag mostly appears in the forest. Therefore, Ace has met him several times, which is why Dorag also knows Ace. Alive. Ace's body trembled, with shock and confusion on his face. "Didn't I get killed by a Kainu?" Marco hugged Ace's body and smiled. "It was Teach who resurrected you. Although it's hard to believe, it's true." Resurrection. Ace's face was still filled with shock and disbelief, but he quickly accepted the fact. Bang, bang, bang. After seeing Ace calm down, Blackbeard clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention and said with a smile, "Next, let you take a look at the confirmation of my guess about the soul. Come on, Frankie, open the skylight." Receive. Frankie immediately walked to the bar and operated one side, and everyone saw the skylight on the top of the Ark's Proverbs being piled slowly. Then, the sunlight shone in the hall. Everyone looked at him with some confusion when they saw this, and Blackbeard turned to look at Moria and said, "Get Ace's shadow ready." "Understood, Captain." Moria immediately opened his mouth with a smile, and then spit out a black shadow from his mouth and held it in his hand. Immediately afterwards, Blackbeard walked up to Ace, pointed to the sunlight under the skylight in front and said, "Ace, you put one arm out into the sun and try it." Quote. Although Ace was confused when he heard this, he still reached out to the sun with his trust in Blackbeard. He. But the next second, under the shocked eyes of everyone, Ace's arm began to turn into ashes from the palm of his hand and disappeared. Even Ace was startled. Just when he was about to retract his arm, he found that his arm was tightly grasped by Blackbeard. Seeing this scene, Marco and the others around them widened their eyes anxiously. Before they could say anything, Moria threw his shadow into Ace's body. Whoosh! Ace's half-disappeared arm actually recovered in an instant. Snapped. Later, Ace was slapped by Blackbeard and brought into the sun. He instinctively raised his hand to block the sun, but found that the horrible thing before did not happen. Everyone who witnessed this series of situations suddenly realized. They gradually understood everything at this moment. In the world of pirates, the round mirror is king. Oh my god. It's amazing. I clearly saw half of Ace's arms disappear just now. Why did they come back again? Is it my hallucination? Illusion. When? Illusion is nothing. I saw it just now. As soon as Ace stretched his hand out into the sun, half of his arm disappeared. Isn't this consistent with what Teach said before? A body without a shadow will be burned by the sun. If the shadow recovers before the body is burned, the body can also recover. That's it. As expected of Teach, you can even do such a thing. It's just a pity that Dad died at a young age. After seeing Ace's arm recover again, everyone started talking. Blackbeard ignored other thoughts, but raised his hand and took out the zone dog fruit phantom beast species human fox form from the time freeze space and handed it to Ace with a smile. "Ace, I ate your Mara fruit, the phantom beast of the dog fruit, as compensation." A phantom beast species. Everyone who was still discussing the relationship between soul, shadow and body exclaimed again after hearing Blackbeard's words. Everyone suddenly turned their attention to the devil fruit in Blackbeard's hand. They are fully aware of the power of the phantom beast devil fruit. Before Blackbeard was exposed, the reason why Marco, a ship's doctor, became the second in command of the Whitebeard pirates was because his phantom species, the Phoenix, gave him incomparable combat power. Badgers of the Blackbeard pirates was originally just a stronger physical expert, but after eating the phantom beast breed, he directly reached the level of an admiral candidate. There is no need to elaborate too much on the power of the phantom beast species. After all, he is the son of version. Therefore, at this time, when they saw that Blackbeard actually used this top-notch fruit to compensate Ace, everyone in the original White group was filled with admiration for Blackbeard's generosity. Seeing everyone's shocked looks, Blackbeard raised the corners of his mouth. This was the effect he wanted. In the future, when they know that Redfield's bat fruit phantom beast species was also given to him, these crew members will respect him even more. As the boss, prestige is not only enough to be powerful, but must be accumulated bit by bit. A fantasy beast species, are you really okay with giving me such a precious fruit? Ace looked at the brown devil fruit in front of him, hesitant. Do you just want to go to war with the Golden Lion with me in a year's time with your current strength? Blackbeard ignored Ace's hesitation and directly stuffed the Inu fruit into Ace's hand and continued. Eat it quickly and develop your fruit ability. Moreover, the phantom beast species can not only bring you special abilities, but also strengthen your physical fitness. At least it will be of great help to you in mastering Marine 6 styles, so that your strength can be improved a bit. Quote. Marco also agreed when he heard this. Ace, since it was given by Teach, you can take it. They are all brothers. What's more, Teach is right, Western style is not very important to middle and upper class experts. This time, most of us were able to survive on the battlefield, thanks to the 6 style manual that Teach left for us a year ago. The detailed training methods recorded above are also the secret to our ability to master the 6 postures so quickly. After you eat this phantom beast and strengthen your physical fitness, you will soon be able to master the 6 style fighting method. By that time, your strength will be stronger than before. This is regardless of the special abilities brought by your phantom beast species. Quote. Hearing Marco's words, Ace was also moved. After saying thank you to Blackbeard, he immediately felt depressed. He has eaten devil fruit before, so he naturally knows that devil fruit is unpalatable. Rather than tasting it, it would be boring to take a bite. Seeing this, everyone around them looked enviously. Phantom beast species. What is the ability? Many people stared at Ace curiously. Soon, everyone saw the change in Ace. 2 civet cat ears sprouted from the top of his head, and a long civet cat's brown and black striped tail stretched out from behind him, swaying from side to side. At the same time, Ace also grew 6 beards on both sides of his face, and 4 fangs sprouted from his mouth. Sharp claws also grew on his hands and feet. The most surprising thing was that a huge green leaf suddenly appeared behind Ace. Seeing this scene, Blackbeard understood. In the previous game, a civet cat probably ate the phantom beast in raccoon form, so the civet cat's state did not change. This state of Ace is normal. That big leaf should be used for painting. The drawn person will have the same strength as the real person, and even the same abilities. To a certain extent, this is also an extremely pervert ability. Single quote. So strong. As expected, the physical strength has become much stronger. Not long after eating the fruit's power, Ace immediately felt the changes in his body, and his face showed excitement. Compared to the changes in Ace's body, everyone is more concerned about the special abilities of the phantom beast. Ace, please tell me what special abilities this phantom beast of yours has. Hey, why is there a big green tree behind you? What's going on? It looks like a tanuki. Ace, ha ha ha. Hearing everyone's questions, Ace raised the corners of his mouth and turned to look at Marco with a teasing smile. Then, with everyone watching in surprise, Ace's long tail began to dance rapidly on the leaf floating behind him. 10 seconds later, everyone saw a portrait of Marco appearing on the big leaf. After seeing this scene, Ma Li Nuojiao or Ko also laughed and said, Ace, are you a fantasy beast who is good at drawing? If that's the case, this skill is indeed a bit useless. Josie also scratched his head. Saki pinched his chin and said, it seems that drawing is not of much use. After all, we all have cameras now. Nani. Before Saki finished speaking, he saw Marco on the leaf come to life and walked down from the leaf under the shocked eyes of everyone. However, it was not yet time for everyone to react. Marco, who was drawn by Ace, was ignited with green flames, and a pair of phoenix wings spread out with a splash. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, he waved at Marco and said with a smile, Hey, main body, what do you think of my phoenix fruit? Seeing this scene, everyone was completely stunned, and they all screamed in shock. Nani. After that, Ace tried drawing Josie, Vista and others again. However, when drawing Blackbeard, I can only draw Blackbeard with dark fruit. But even this shocked everyone. Because even this Blackbeard has quasi-admiral strength. At this time, everyone finally felt the power of the answer of the fantasy beast species. Even if he strengthens his body, he still has such heaven-defying abilities. Of course, this painting ability is also limited. Ace can only draw 4 people at a time, and the person drawn has a certain relationship with the strength of the person being painted. The stronger the person being drawn, the stronger the copied body will be. For example, when Ace drew Marco before, he could only draw the elite vice admiral. But when I draw Blackbeard, I draw it at a quasi-admiral level. Another limitation is that the 4 people he drew can only continue fighting for 1 hour. Perhaps in the future, as Ace becomes more and more skilled in controlling abilities, he will be able to draw more powerful characters and the battles will last longer. But even this kind of ability is still heaven-defying. Imagine the scene where Ace brings Blackbeard clones, Whitebeard clones, Kaido clones, and Big Mom clones into battle in the future. Just thinking about it makes people feel creepy. Taking advantage of this more than a year, Blackbeard will teach Ace how to develop this painting fruit. In this way, the overall strength of the Blackbeard pirates will make another qualitative leap. After things calmed down on Ace's side, Blackbeard sat down again and prepared to continue torturing the King of Sweats. This time he no longer held back. At this moment, he was possessed by the Ki Immortal. He raised his hand and pointed at Ace and said, Drag, This is the result of the Summit War, the Whitebeard pirates and the Blackbeard pirates. Can you imagine the morale of more than 50,000 of our brothers after they risked their lives and found that Ace was not only resurrected, but also became extremely powerful? I've said it before, this is a world of the weak and the strong. Only the strong can decide everything. This is the first thing I dislike about you. The overall strength of the Revolutionary Army can be said to be very strong compared to the Four Emperors Regiment. But compared to world governments, have you really understood their power? Compared with them, your Revolutionary Army is simply not too weak. Not to mention, even compared with our Blackbeard pirates, your BBFH Revolutionary Army may not be able to surpass us in overall strength. How can we talk about world government? When long-haired Blackbeard began to torture him again, he not only didn't panic, he still sat down and listened calmly. After pondering for 2 seconds, Long immediately captured the key information in Blackbeard's words. He didn't care at all about the man in front of him who continued to torture him, but said keenly, "Mr. Teach, you mean that you know the true history of world government? If you have any information about this, please let us know. Our Revolutionary Army will remember this favor." Seeing his expression, Blackbeard couldn't help but feel a little guilty in his heart. But after hearing the favor that Long said, his eyes lit up a little more. Isn't this what he wants? The Conqueror's entangled sparring partner for the top Emperor-level warrior, isn't this coming? With this in mind, he continued to torture. Now that you've said that, I happen to have a favor for you to do. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit. First of all, the strongest army of the Celestial Dragons is the God's Punishment Army, which is all an elite army cultivated by the Celestial Dragons using the top resources of the Celestial Dragons over the past 800 years. In fact, I feel that Summit War's 100,000 Marine elite generals are not enough in front of them. Because these people are a total killing machine. This is just the God's Punishment Army, numbering over 100,000. You should have an idea of how many strong people can be born in it. Quote. Hiss. Hearing this number, not to mention dragons, even everyone in the black group who were still observing Ace's abilities opened their eyes in horror, gasping frantically at the acceleration of time and space. When Blackbeard saw this, he didn't take it seriously and said, "You think this is the end? Why can celestial dragons stand on top of the powerful naval headquarters and show off their power? Where did the Marine Marshals go after they left office? Except for the special case of Sengoku, everyone else became the commander-in-chief of the Celestial Dragons God's Punishment Army just like the previous Marine Marshal Sora. Therefore, Celestial Dragons God's Punishment Army will not have any shortcomings in tactics. And above the God's Punishment Army is the strongest guard force among the Celestial Dragons. That is, the legendary Knights of God. They have always maintained a staff of 7 people. But as we all know, the external propaganda of the Knights of God is 7 people, so there are at least 8 people or even more. Among the 7 members of the Knights of God, there are at least 3 Marine Admiral-level combatants, and the others are all quasi-admiral in strength. As for whether some of these people died in the battle or how much the loss was, I have no way of knowing. But it is nothing more than supplementing it from the elite among the Celestial Dragons. Among them, there is also the CPO who serves as the standing guard force of Celestial Dragons. With the powerful resources of the Celestial Dragons, Dorag, do you think they can cultivate 2 or 3 Marine Admiral-level experts from the CPOs who control CP organizations all over the world? There are at least 4 or 5 Marine Admirals here. This is a conservative estimate, there may be more. In addition, Marine is also a force in their hands, adding up to at least Admiral-level experts. The most important point is that the 5 elders, 5 immortals who have undergone immortality surgery, each of them is definitely not weaker than you. Faced with such a world government, tell me how your Revolutionary Army will overthrow it. This is the foundation of world government's control of the world for 800 years. Moreover, these are just a few things I know. No one knows if they have more terrifying powers. Overthrow the world government, just because you don't even pay attention to high-end combat power. Who are you looking down on? Don't be too arrogant, Dorag. Quiet, deathly silence. After listening to Blackbeard's in-depth analysis of world government, everyone just felt numb. Only now did they truly feel the true horror of the behemoth world government. It is not unreasonable for the world government to be able to stand at the top of the world and dominate for 800 years. Celestial dragons are never weak. What they rely on has never been the group of pigs who claim to be descendants of gods, but the absolute power to suppress everything. Before this power, Rox, who was as powerful as he once wanted to be the king of the world, would all die because of it. This is world government. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.